Hello, everybody out there, and welcome to, I think this is episode 73 of the Game Dev Show. Got some really interesting things to talk about today and a special guest who's got some exciting info to share with us. So welcome, Andrew, Dave, and Justin. You guys all want to say hi?
Hey.
Hello.
Hi. How's everyone doing?
Well, personally, I'm doing great. I assume everybody in chat's doing good. If you are, please say hello. And if you already grabbed the Humble Bundle that me and Andrew have been talking about for the last couple days, make sure that you let us know too. Oh, let me check my mic settings. It said my mic was weird. I want to make sure that we're on the correct mic.
Did I sound right? Do I sound better now?
Oh, there you go.
There we go. Yeah, I was probably talking through the camera that's way up here, the Brio one, sounding like a weirdo. there we go. So anyway, welcome again. Welcome everybody.
Yeah,
much better.
Yeah, you can host Jeopardy now.
Yeah, feels good. Feels good.
Yeah. I'd be so confused and lost. I don't think that I could, but
you just have to read the cards.
I could fake it. Yeah, that works. So before we dive into stuff, Andrew, you want to just briefly tell everybody about the bundle? So
Humble Bundle.
Anybody that doesn't know about it already, what is Humble Bundle?
Humble Bundle is a company, a website, a store that puts together these bundles of content, oftentimes games, but also software. And they've been doing a whole lot of asset bundles from time to time. And you can get a whole bunch of stuff for a low price. In this case, there's 29 packs or something. There's a whole bunch of Infinity PBR content, high poly, low poly. There's some courses from Jason Weimann. There's some tools. There's some art, audio, props, environments, all this stuff for $30 or more. And you get to choose who the money goes to. You can, of course, choose that all goes to Infinity PBR, which is, in this case, Jason and myself. And you can choose to give some to charities, and you can choose to give some to Humble Bundle, or you can choose to, not give them that as much, because do they really need it? They're the big man. They don't need it. So you can choose where the money goes. And support the Infinity PBR. So it's just a great opportunity to get a whole bunch of our content at once for really a ridiculously low price. It's over $1,000 on the asset store if you were to buy all that separately. So,
Yeah, I think it's worth it just for the dragons alone. That's what I've been doing. But I paid more than that for the first dragon, $30.
Yeah, it's a $75 pack. Just for the dragon. And not to mention, Unity also threw in a 10% off coupon. So if you were planning on buying anything that costs $300, any transaction on the asset store this month that was going to cost $300 anyway, you can get that coupon, save $30, and it's a wash. So, I mean, just on that. So there's a lot of value there. All the Infinity PBR stuff, the Game Mastery course from Jason, which, of course, has a few bits of good information in it, like 3 or 4. And then the 10% off coupon to the asset store. So a whole lot going on there. And of course, this is the second time we've done a Humble Bundle. Both times it was a shock and a last minute thing for me, from my side with, I had 13 days to get this together from when I found out that they said, okay, we're going to do it on this date. And I was like, oh shit. So it was a big scramble. But it's a big opportunity to get new folks into the mix and really just, it funds the next 6 to 12 months worth of artists. So it allows me to hire new artists and get new stuff made faster. And so I've got big plans for this if it performs really well. So tell your friends and go on Reddit and upvote that post.
Oh, yeah, we should definitely share the post so people can upvote it and share it and spread it around, get it out there.
Yeah.
Also, I opened up the giveaway. It looks like a couple people are joining. You can see the instructions in the description, but put an exclamation mark, choose a race and class, and you'll pop up for the battle at the end of the show. Let's shrink that back down. And yeah, go grab the bundle. The link is in the description. It's right up near the top of the description. There's some interesting stuff I wanted to talk to you about with that, Andrew, in a little bit. I have some new hardware stuff that I want to kind of play with and integrate with one of your characters. I think would be interesting. I want to ask Dave about that in a minute. But first, I wanted to say hi to Justin and let Justin say hi to everybody because I've been there. And,
hello there.
Say hello and tell everybody about this game jam so people can start looking at it and getting ready and starting to join if they're interested.
Yeah, so I'm Justin Barnett. I go by Justin P. Barnett on all of my social media and whatnot. And I run a VR tutorial YouTube channel. So if you're into Unity game dev, but more specifically, if you're into VR development on the Unity engine, then I have a lot of tutorials that you may be interested in. And I actually teamed up with all the other, I reached out to all the other VR tutorial makers on YouTube who also do Unity. And secretly it was to get them all in a group message so we could all hang out. But we are putting on a VR game jam. So big game jam, specifically VR games. And you can use whatever engine you want. And it started on yesterday, but it's a 9-day game jam. So the idea being you can have both weekends on the front and back end of the week. And then you have a whole week in the middle if you're a student, or you can take some time off work if you want to really go hard and make a really cool game. So it's a 9-day game jam. We have 585-ish people signed up right now. So we'll see how many games we actually get towards the end. And yeah, just started yesterday. So if you're interested in joining, it's just called VR Jam 2022 on itch.io. And you can sign up and make your own VR game.
Yeah, it's linked right down at the top of the description too. You definitely go check it out. What was the theme for the jam?
So this one is one-time use. So anything, it could be, you have your simple ideas of, a solo cup or a piece of paper or some of those like disposable type items. Or, you could go a little more complex and say you only have a spell you can use once, or, something like that. So, it's very open for interpretation. Those are the 5 YouTubers that we all kind of put our heads together and pitched the jam on our own, our separate sources.
That is great.
Man, I wonder how many games are going to be as soon as you die, it deletes itself from your system.
Yeah, you get to play the game once.
That was my first suggestion. But you can only do it once. Yeah.
Oh,
You don't tell people that, so they just get that.
Yeah, exactly. You try it once, you die. That's it. That's all you get.
Oh man. But yeah, go sign up for that if you're building VR stuff. What do you find people are using to build VR stuff? Like headset wise, software wise? What are the most common ones nowadays? I'm kind of curious. I used to do a lot of VR stuff all the time before, and it's been a few years since I was really heavy into it.
Right.
Like, what's everybody using now?
The most popular one is going to be your Oculus or Meta, now Quest 2. That's, the cheapest one and arguably the one that gives you the most, performance and resources for the best price. Even though they just increased the price $100 due to market restrictions or market demand. But yeah, that's if you're getting into VR, the Meta Quest 2 is one I would look at. And then as far as development, Unity tends to be the leader as far as game engines, as far as how many features and how much you can do. Of course, you can do Godot and Unreal. They're keeping up pace pretty well. But Unity tends to have the most. You still have today to buy it, so the price increases tomorrow. Yeah. So if you want a Quest 2 for $100 off, you get it today.
I did not. Save $100, huh?
Yep. And then Unity's got a built-in plugin that you can download called the XR Interaction Toolkit that comes with a lot of pre-built interactions and stuff. So raycast and grabbing and like a socket kind of inventory type systems in it. And it's very basic, but you can build on top of that. And that's generally where all of my tutorials kind of lead to, is just using all of the Unity built-in stuff. But there's also like frameworks and stuff you can use to kind of jumpstart.
Okay, that's that's the last stuff I remember using was the earlier versions of the XR toolkit. There's a question about the index. Have you been using that at all? Is that pretty popular? That's the one headset I don't have.
This one's fun. If you have a PC that's pretty powerful, the Valve Index is going to be your probably the best one, I think.
Nice.
It's pretty old now. I guess it came out a while ago, I feel like.
Like
But
4 years.
as far as like the controllers are still the best controllers on the market. You can have like individual per finger on the controller, and it detects per finger instead of just one little button you press. It's really nice, and it's got a really high frame rate and high resolution. Not the best in the market, but it's pretty good. It's Steam's version of the VR headset.
Yeah, I remember I had a Pimax, the 8K one for a while, but then I ended up selling it because I only used it like 3 times, and it would just sat there forever. And I was like, I'm gonna sell this before it's worth nothing again. like I have a pile full of old VR equipment that I just give away to the kids' friends whenever they come by. I'm like, hey, you don't have any VR stuff? Here you go. I saw more of it ready to get rid of. I didn't want that to end up in that pile back then.
Yeah, I know people would just just all the headsets. They just buy every new one that comes out, and they just ends up being their whole background on like videos or whatever.
Yeah, well, for a while there, it seemed like headsets were just randomly showing up at the door when they were coming out.
Oh, yeah. Hey, try this.
Here's a shipment. Like, wait, what? Yeah. Dave, somebody mentioned that your headset's probably attached to the robot arm, but that one's actually coming out of the ceiling, isn't it?
That's actually no. I've got a new system. I've got a new arm that is bolted to the wall over here, and it swings out, and then I have my headsets come down for development. So you can actually put them down and put them into any space, so that you can actually just lift when you're finished. You do your development, you lift them up, and then they're out the way, and they just stay there.
That's nice.
So you'd have to, but yeah, this bolted into the ceiling on a retractable arm. That one.
Yeah, I have but I'm renting.
Oh yeah, you can't do it. I have wrecked this room. Like if ever I have to leave this place, I've got to replaster the entire thing because I've got everything mounted on walls and.
You might see the wall right there. I need to fix this whole thing up. It's.
Yeah, I have damaged this room, seriously damaged this room, and probably have to change some things about the electrical standards I do in this place as well. So, a few things that I've added on. But yeah, I've got 15 plus headsets now. It's getting ridiculous.
That's what happens when you do a lot of VR contracting. You got to have something for every project. You got to have the device or the devices and be ready.
One of my first comments to my clients is what headset are you using now? Because I'm like, am I going to have to buy more headsets? And then when a box turns up and it's another headset, my wife's like, you don't have that many friends. Why do you have these many headsets? Well,
those are your friends.
Yeah, those are my friends. Yeah, the little heads sitting in the corner with the headsets on. Yeah, no.
Oh, man. So are you entering this VR game jam, Dave? Or are you out this time?
It really depends if I can do it. For people that don't know, I'm kind of suffering at the moment. And part of the suffering comes with blurry vision and stuff like that. So being in a headset means having a controller in one hand and a bucket in the other. And how long that can last, I don't know. But yeah, I might do. I like the theme this time around. The last time was pretty good, but this is a good theme. It's a thinker. I don't want to do the standard, one shot thing or something like that. So I'm trying to think outside the box, but we'll see. Yesterday was a mess, so I'm going to start with a bit of a penalty to the time that I'm going to have to work with it. We'll see.
Yours was pretty good last time you did it, though. That was a good game.
Yeah, so I know you've done 2 VR game jams so far. There was the VR Super Jam back in 2021.
Yeah, last year, and then I did a January jam too.
And then you did a January jam. I didn't get much time to do the January jam, which was annoying because it was more of an evil one, so I could do some horror stuff, and I love horror stuff. But yeah, the Super Jam was the one, the bigger one that I took part in, and it's super fun. It's super fun. Great community as well. Everybody out there, if you can, join Justin's Discord as well. There's a load of VR enthusiasts on there. They're really passionate about what they do. There's jam chats on there as well. And you can go and meet like-minded people and find teams on there to do these game jams with. So I recommend it. I'm personally on there, and I do chat to people on there. And I also subscribe to Justin because he's one of the better YouTubers talking about VR out there. And I don't subscribe to an awful lot of people because I find a lot of people just dull and boring. But he's a good one. So I suggest people go and subscribe to him as well.
So before you have to go, Dave, I want to, because I know you're not feeling good. I don't want to keep you all morning. I wanted to show you this thing that I stumbled across in a Facebook ad on Friday, and decided that I needed to integrate with the TiltFive table behind me. So
those pills aren't real, Jason. Don't buy them. Carry on.
It's close. They're dice. So I don't know if you've seen these. Have you seen these things? These Go dice?
I have not.
So you roll it. They charge right here. They don't actually charge. It's like a capacitor, so they last for 2 hours. You hold it on there for 20 seconds. It lasts for 2 hours. But I've got an app here. This is a Unity test app that I built out to the phone. I can actually sync up the dice. Oh, there it goes. There's one of them lighting up right there. And then you can see, like, this is now I just switched it to 3. You can see it switch to 3. And if I roll it over to be 1 on top, there we go. It goes to 1. And then you can essentially, and you can also tap them to light them up. So I can hit, whoops. If I don't launch it across into my monitor, and tap it and make them flash and stuff too. So you can send commands to make them flash, control them, and then I can add in all of the full set of the dice, right? So scan and add them all in. My thought was I was going to do something with these on that table and make like a little game where you roll dice against some enemies and you roll them on the board and control it. You don't actually have a controller for that, and kind of playing around with it. And that's what I started experimenting with. I saw these on Friday on Facebook and messaged them and found out they did have an SDK. They sent me the link to their GitHub repo for it. So I ordered some and they showed up the next day. And then I started playing with them yesterday a little bit and getting them set up. And now the one thing I've run into so far that's an issue is that getting the actual dice working on Windows, I'm not sure how to do because the Bluetooth plugin that I grabbed from the asset store works everywhere but Windows. And I didn't see any that just say that they work with Windows. So I wasn't sure. I haven't done enough Bluetooth stuff to know, and I figured before I dove in, I would ask some people who might happen to have some advice on where to look or what to look at before I dive into it. I don't know that it's super important, but I thought it would be neat to be able to roll them and control stuff. And Andrew, what I was thinking with the characters was being able to like display them as a hologram and then roll the dice and have it randomize how they look based on like have it adjust blend shapes because each die is a different color and individually addressed. So you could, say like the orange die controls the head size and the green is the selection or whatever. Doing different things like that with some randomization, I thought it'd be cool. Or using them as little controllers. So that's my new find for the week. Okay, so Dave, you've just sent me a link.
Yeah, so this is a link I've used in the past outside of my own code for hardware. I used this ages and ages ago for running some HTO5 Bluetooth adapters, which are really old Bluetooth modules. This works on Windows, so you can run it. I built some...
Does it have to be a UWP app, though?
No, you can just build it straight out. It should work.
It'll work for Windows PC. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I use this. So an HTO5 module, for people that don't know, is just a little tiny module you can attach to, say, an Arduino or something like that, and it does the Bluetooth communication. You do have to have the ability to set pins and stuff in that, but you can hard pin that into a constant and it will run through. But yeah, I've built some guns with those Bluetooth modules. I switched recently to using Arduino Bluetooth modules. So the Arduino with Bluetooth built into it. I can't. My brain's a bit foggy. I can't remember what the Arduino number is for that. It's probably 55 or something like that. But there's a Nano Arduino that had Bluetooth built into it, and you can usually link that up as well. Again, you just have to do the pairing process. I do recommend people put little LEDs on the side of the thing, and in their Arduino code have a very basic, is this connected, show this light, because the amount of people I know that just are like, it's not working, it's not working. Thank you, Alan. It's the NanoBLE 33. Good man. He knows me. I talk to him a lot. So yeah, that put a light next to it. That way you know whether it's connected or not, and write that into your code that you connect up to the light. Because I know so many people that are like, it's not connected, and they just haven't put the cable in the right spot. And having a light there tells you whether it's connecting or not. But yeah.
Well, I'm going to try that plugin and that NanoBLE 33.
He's right. The plugin documentation is horrendous. If you don't know how Bluetooth works or anything else, you're going to get shafted.
Well, I'm hoping that I can just swap it in place or implement the interface that they've got there into that plugin, or a little wrapper onto it. But I'll take a look at it real quick, see what it looks like, and then I'll reach out to them too. Also, again, it may not be that important. I just thought it would be cool to be able to do it from Windows too, and be able to roll the dice, see them show up in the editor instead of having to use a simulator. And there's a question too about why not just get real dice and put QR codes on the side. Mostly just because I saw an ad for these on Facebook, and I was like, that's cool as shit. I got to try those out. So the way that they have it set up, it runs through. They have an iPad and Android app that plays a bunch of little games for it, like Yahtzee, and I think it looked like there were a couple dozen little games. I only tried 2 of them so far because I was more interested in playing with the SDK. But I also just thought like they could be like really neat controllers for my lights. Like I could switch, like each one could control a different light. So I could set it to different modes, or I could just roll the dice and have different colors everywhere. Like, each number could be a different color, each die could be a light or something. I just thought it'd be fun to play with. So that's why I didn't want to go with detection. Plus, detecting things optical detection is a lot harder, I think, than just reading the value from the Bluetooth SDK.
Yeah, your cameras are always going to be a bit messy.
And then
I'd love to see them
more
do
than 6-sided. They have like 20.
Oh, I was about to ask that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
apparently
you
they've
can
got 'em all.
D&D world.
Yeah, you can imagine
Because
the
they love their
D&D game
dice.
being able to replay it, having all the logs set up, so you can set up all the analytics and everything for D&D and have it all.
Ooh.
That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, that would be cool. I was thinking of just making like a little fighting game at first. So I want to use a combination of some of the battler assets, Andrew's village, and a couple other things that I found, and make a little game where you're walking through and like just battle other enemies that roll dice. So they'll roll dice on the board. You'll see their dice, and then you roll out your dice, and somehow you win or lose. I'm not sure how that is. Gotta figure out the win and lose mechanic. I'll probably start off with just roll a higher number, but
it's a good anti-cheat method as well. If you're doing multiplayer over network, but you're using real dice on TiltFive as an anti-cheat, you're not just literally placing the dice down yourself.
Yeah.
You could say,
that's
okay,
the only thing. You could
fun.
just set them down. I thought it'd be fun for like a local multiplayer too. Do something like that. You could do a lot of cool things. So I got a second set of them coming, so that way I could do 2 sets and do PvP.
How fast is the connection? Like when you're rolling it, does the number constantly change until it finally settles, or does it take
it's pretty quick. So let's see, it's about a second before I see it on air. So if you watch on the phone, you can see the values there.
Okay, so as you're rolling, it won't just like keep updating. Not really. No.
It depends what I mean. At the end of the day, on that interface, it depends how much it's getting over from it, because it's having to do the reading and then the display.
Yeah. I think it has a started rolling and then a stopped rolling event though. So it'll tell you when it started moving, and then you could just randomize the visual there, and then when it stopped rolling, and just stop it. And I found a dice asset on the asset store that lets you roll in-game dice just by calling dice.roll and the number of dice that you want to use. So I've already got the enemy set up, and they just roll out their dice onto the board, and now you roll these. Now I just got to get them all linked together real quick and make it into a game so I can play it out in the living room.
I done a dice game on a friend's game jam a while ago. where the dice fell from the ceiling and then they rolled out onto the scene itself and then read all the dice and then they flew up and showed you what the dice were and all the rest. That was super fun.
Cool.
I think GMTK just did a game jam.
Oh yeah,
and it was dice themed.
Yeah, that's right.
I think someone posted, if you're looking for ideas, that'd be a good game jam to peruse and
That's a good
figure
idea.
out.
There. You do a game jam that requires you to have physical Bluetooth dice now.
Yeah, potentially sponsored by the company that makes the dice.
There you go.
That would have to be sponsored by the company.
If they're out there listening to the channel.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so yeah, that's my new find. So I'm gonna look through that Bluetooth API, see what I can do, play with that a bunch, and have a little bit of fun with it, I think.
So I'd like to hear, talking of game jams and the dice and all the rest of it, I'd like to hear Justin's thoughts on how you should prepare for these game jams. He was running one at the moment.
Yeah. So I made a video about this like a year ago. It probably needs a refresher at this point. But I honestly find that like being able to schedule out what you're going, like how long you're going to spend on certain, parts of game jam and development and whatnot is because, you have a week or 2 days, depending on like how long the game jam lasts. So you got to be really efficient with your time and time management and all that kind of stuff. And so the last one I participated in was 3 days, and we spent the whole first day just like coming up with ideas. Like we didn't even like really do much coding besides like let's see if this works kind of thing. And I honestly think that like coming up with ideas, like you should spend a lot longer on like coming up with a cool fun idea than a lot of people think, because you get in your head, oh, I've got to go fast, so like here's an idea and I'll take that and I'll start building on it. And it's like the first obvious idea, like for this one-time use theme, like you could just easily go with like, oh, I can only shoot a gun once, or I can only do some disposable thing, and it's like that's the most obvious one, and you could make a cool fun mechanic around that. But like thinking outside the box and coming up with like a cool like, whoa, this is a weird twist of the theme is always a fun idea. And then you also have the obvious like prep phase where like make sure you update Unity and you update your computer, because I've been caught with a Windows update in the middle of a game jam, which sucks, and like all that stuff. So you want to like make sure you've prepped all that. You tell your spouse, your family, and your friends that you're going to be participating in a jam and grumpy and unavailable for a week or a weekend or whatever, because they'll be like, "Hey, let's go do this and let's go do this," and you're like, "Wait, no, I'm busy. I'm really
going
busy."
To Dave's house for the week.
Yeah, my wife has come home to 5 people being in my living room. Like, why are all these people here? Oh, we're jamming at the moment.
That was
like,
your much smaller living room too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. When I just moved over to America and I was staying in a one bed apartment while I was waiting to buy this house and everything, and like all of them turned up and just was sleeping on my living room floor while we were building out a game for I can't remember what we were building a game for at the time, but yeah, me, Jason, Andy, Aaron, and a few others. Yeah. Good times.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of prep that goes into like a game jam, and then like once you get going, you just stay in the flow and you get in that flow state and you just try to stay there as long as you can, and use it. And then, but like the best part of a game jam is learning what you don't know. Like it's crazy how much you can learn in the span of like 2 days or a week or however long the game jam is, because normally you just kind of go and dabble on a game or whatever. Especially like if you have a job that's not actually game development, you come back to it every now and then if you participate in a game jam, like this is your world for the next however long it takes, and so you tend to realize a lot like, oh, I don't really know how to like build and publish a game, like I haven't really practiced that yet, or like I have never really used animations. I've always been dabbling in this, so it kind of reveals those little spots of like, oh, I need to focus on this a little more or learn a little more about that. It's a really cool, like, kind of learning tool.
Absolutely. Yeah. I still do them. I absolutely love game jams. I've been developing for years and years, and I still do them because I find them super helpful. And I would say anybody out there doing these game jams, make sure you build early, because the amount of people that get to like an hour before the game's got to be submitted and they're like, oh, my build doesn't work. And it's like, yeah, you're screwed.
Yeah. Every I recommend at least once a day, like when you're about done wrapping up for the day, like do a build, see if it works. And if it doesn't work, you that'll be your first thing the next day is like trying to get that build to work. And then also another thing is the team that you meet or you participate in. So like a lot of like a good part of the game jam is learning how to work with a team. Like if you go with a team and like learning how to manage a project with multiple members and how to like make sure everybody contributes and like how to deal with that. And then also like, the people that you participate in a game jam with, like could be, the other developers on the game that you submit to Steam later down the road kind of stuff. Like, so, finding a team and, that these could potentially be friends for a while.
It's how me and Jason actually met. So we were doing a VR jam back in, we've got to age us now, 2010. Yeah,
something like
2010. That. Yeah, me and Jason met at a game jam back in 2010 doing VR with DK2s, I think, or something like that. Like really early days.
No, it was DK1s.
Oh, it was DK1s.
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah,
the first ones.
Yeah.
And most of the people at the jams didn't actually have their own. There was, I remember only like one person on each team basically had a headset. I think that was like right when they first came out.
Yeah, he's right. Yeah, came out 2013. Yeah, and we met and chatted, and then we started meeting up more and more at the meetups, and that's how our romance blossomed.
Nice.
Game gems are the way to go. By the way, anybody who wants to enter the giveaway, just choose exclamation mark and any race and class. Just be a rat or a dragon or something, and you'll pop up. Or you can look at the whole list down in the description.
Andrew, is that a cheat code you just used?
Yes, Jason's story.
Jason's story superpower. I don't know. Let me see if it actually has any powers.
It's been nerfed.
It's the most efficient character.
Yeah, the problem is every time it fights, it just talks for half an hour and then it loses.
Story. Yeah, right now the story has no stats.
Oh, don't say that one.
Give it a stat. Let's give it +1 damage. No, that doesn't seem right. What's a good one for Jason's story? Damage, critical, hit, heal on hit. What stat do you want, Andrew?
Oh, heal on hit sounds great.
All right, you got some heal on hit for Jason's story.
Rebuttal.
All right. Let's see if anybody else figures that out and copies you and adds it.
Singleton.
It's just an extra stat that adds on. All right. So we actually had a couple questions, by the way, and I think we could probably open up to a couple more. Do you guys open to take a couple questions right now?
Sure, if they're not hard.
Yeah, they're easy questions.
Easy one. How do I gain an audience for my game?
Talk about it.
Advertise it. Talk about
Everywhere.
it. Share it.
Show it.
Yeah.
Make a YouTube channel. All the socials.
Just for that game. Yeah. No, literally talk about it everywhere. Go on to forums. Show it at your local meetups. If you're a part of a game meetup that meets on a regular basis, they'll be your biggest advocates. For instance, we had Patrick on here previously who done Patrick's Powerbox. I'm on a meetup with him, and as soon as he bought the game, we all went out and bought it immediately, put nice comments on it because it's an amazing game. We're extended family reviews. And then, send it to YouTubers, send it to all sorts and just get it out there. Talk about it on Reddit. Nick, who's been on has he been on the show? I don't know if he's been on the show, but Vimlark, he plays games from people on a constant basis on his stream, and that's got an awful big following. So that's a good resource if you can get in there and show your game on his channel.
How important is interacting with the audience as you gain them? Like, having a Discord or something, and rather than just putting it out there and getting people to watch it, but when they ask questions, really engaging, really following the feedback.
It's as important as if you've got a YouTube channel. Talking to your audience and keeping up with them and making it not seem just one direction is big. I know devlogs aren't super popular on YouTube. I get more views on when I put out a tutorial than when I put out a devlog, but it doesn't hurt making devlogs, and it also keeps you real to what you're building as well, which is quite good. But yeah, you've definitely got to communicate. They're people that are going to buy your game and be your audience. Obviously, don't let them take advantage of you. Amount of people that you put out a game and then they're like, "Oh yeah, give us a free code," and you're like, like go buy the game. And this is for people, if your friend's making a game and putting it out there, buy it. Like, don't just get a free code. Go and buy it. It's not going to cost you much. And then put a really good review. So it's a legitimate review on that site of that game.
Yeah, that's like the quality of the people who's going to play your game too. It's the difference between talking at people versus developing a community around you and the game that you kind of want to foster and facilitate. A lot of people will focus on trying to bring in as many people as possible and how can I get the most reach, but then they neglect the people they've already reached and they've already like brought in. And that's kind of where the word of mouth kind of, comes from, is like, you really facilitate that core group of people that you're with. And then they'll go and tell other people about it.
And also, it's not just about selling the game. This is a group of people that's going to tell you if your game's good. This is a group of people that is going to qualify what you're doing as a game developer as well. Having an audience there early on tells you that your game is legitimately going to be good when it comes out. If everybody gets it, it's like, you're not making a good game. Like, think about it. And get things out there early enough that people can play it. The nice thing about very close audiences like game meetups as well is these people make video games. So when you give them something, you can give them in a very early grey box state and they'll understand that. Giving it to a wider audience in a grey box state, a lot of times you give it to them, they're like, it looks rubbish. And you're like, yeah, I literally qualified this by saying this is a grey box build that I'm doing. I just want to know if the loop's good. Oh no, the loop's not good because it looks terrible. You're like, you're not the audience I want. So it's also picking the audience, the correct audience for the thing you want to show and do in the process of building your game. If you're showing grey boxes and stuff like that, make sure your audience is accepting of the grey box gameplay, that you're proving that your game is fun and the loop's fun. And then once you've got it a little bit more polished, putting it out to the wider audience. That way also people don't dismiss it. When you give it to them, they're like, oh, this is a rubbish game because it looks rubbish. You're like, yeah, because I literally haven't added all of the Infinity PBR assets that will make this look fantastic. So yeah.
And like in my Discord channel, we have a whole page for saying what's your progress, like like kind of like a weekly progress update channel where like there's at least 4 or 5 people who are working on these really cool games, and you kind of get to see their progress every week, and it kind of draws you in. And we're a community of developers, so we get to kind of give constructive criticism and say, oh, that was a cool piece of this, and yada yada. So yeah, just find the niche community of whatever genre and type of game you have, and get in with that community. Provide value to them too, not just like blast your game everywhere.
Totally. I know that's why with my bundle, I don't go on Reddit. So I was like, well, I can't post about this on Reddit because that won't work. So hey, anybody want to post on Reddit who goes on Reddit?
Jason's getting attacked by a little one. We can
It's
still
so common
see you
in that household.
Yeah, that's the other thing. If you've not already been in the community, if you come out there and you literally just start posting immediately about your thing and not taking any interest in anybody else's stuff apart from yours, you're selfish. Nobody's going to be interested. So get out there, comment on other people's games. They'll give you more ideas for yourself. You might find fixes or things that you've done wrong with your game by commenting and looking at other people's games that they're creating. And ignore the flame. Like when people give you crap online about your game and all the rest of it, which some will, ignore it.
People give crap online, but online is hub
I
of
know
positivity and
Yeah,
good feelings.
yeah. People call me names. There's some toxicity there. If everybody's turning around and telling you your game is bad, your game is bad. Just take it. But
Or if people don't reply at all.
Yeah, that's another thing. If you haven't got a hook to your game or anything, and don't be scared about showing your game and showing what you're doing.
Nobody's stealing.
A lot of people clam up. They're like, I don't want somebody to steal this, and they don't show it. And that could be problematic because you get to the end and your thing doesn't work, or nobody enjoys it, or the stylistic choice that you've made as the artist really is terrible.
The visuals are important.
Black on black. Yeah,
you can gain a big following just by having a cool looking game. It doesn't even they can know nothing about how the game works or what you do there, but like it looks cool, and so that kind of sucks people in sometimes.
Yeah, I went to a bookstore the other day and I judged every book by the cover, and I only picked up books that have cool covers because there's like 1.5 billion books in Barnes and Noble, and I can't look at them all. So I'm looking at the covers. I'm like, if they put the book on the spine, so only the spine's there, I'm not even gonna. There's no way I'm gonna pick up that book. I'm only gonna look at the ones that are facing me, and only with the good art on it.
Yep.
It works.
Art matters.
It does.
It does. And going on that point and talking about game jams as well. When you're doing a game jam, your game doesn't have to be the best looking thing that ever existed. Some people spend too long in their game jam working on the art and ignoring the loop and making the game fun itself. And sometimes your game can be, you can use abstract theories and move away from it. So one of well, funnily enough, the VR game jam from the last year, the Super Jam, I took very basic characters, a box, and then cleared the rest of the world and made it white and just put some lines in, and everybody talked about how good the art was. And I was like, well, it's not. I literally went on Mixamo, grabbed the basic head, ripped it off and the basic hands, and then put a cube in there. But because the color theory is two colors that are really contrasting and striking, and there's a little bit of fade in there, everybody thought it was fantastic. But the art itself took less than an hour to produce for the entire game jam. So it doesn't have to be the best, most fantastical looking thing when you go in there for game jams. That's just a run on that point.
Simplicity is usually better in that case. Simple art, simple graphics.
I feel like your simple art though, Dave, is still really fucking good. Like, like you throw something together in 10 minutes and it looks prettier than shit that I could spend an entire day trying to do.
But here's the cheaty thing. It's so unoptimized. Like it can, but who cares? Like for a lot of these things. So this video that Jason's put up now is actually the art from the actual game. Now the art in itself, as I say, was nothing. It took absolutely nothing. And this game jam was done in about 24 hours. And the theme was reflections. And it was about playing against yourself and with yourself. So when you move, you're actually moving. So all of these characters, the left and right is dictated by the yellow and the green. And you're moving a cube. And when you move your hand, your reflections move as well. So you're actually playing 3 spaces at the time as you're playing 1 space. So that's the puzzle game that I created for this VR jam. But as you can see, there's no super fantastical art assets or anything like that in there. It's very basic. The hands and the head is from Mixamo, and I literally just ripped them off, broke apart their rigs, and then done my own little rig quickly for the hands and stuff. Very basic concept, but everybody commented on the art because people love clean lines with 1, 2, 3 colors that contrast and make things look pretty. Basically,
it's the aesthetic and I would relate it similar to this phenomenon, I suppose, with like, you know, painted art or whatnot, or photography, where people say, wow, it's so colorful, when there's actually fewer colors than other work that is actually more colorful. But with the minimalism, with this aesthetic, you end up noticing the things more easily, and somehow it appears to be more pleasing than something that just, you know, would otherwise be more pleasing from some objective, you know, standpoint.
Yeah. It was super fun to create this one.
Yeah, it was super cool. I think the theme was opposites for that
Reflection.
one? Reflection.
Or, hang on.
It
Reflections.
was something to that.
Oh no, the game was called Reflections. You're right. It was actually, yeah, it was something else.
Sorry, I just spilled a drink all over myself.
Opposites. You're right. The theme was opposites.
Opposites.
You were running the jam.
Yeah, I ran that one too. I'm to the
yeah.
point now where I've hosted more game jams than I've participated in.
Oh.
So I need to get in there and make some more games. The last one I hosted, I tried to actually participate in it and host it at the same time, and that was rough. That was a lot.
Oh, the escape room one.
Yeah. I was like, I
fun.
made a little escape room. I was like, this is just terrible.
Again, talking about that one, I mean, that one, I entered that one as well because I love being in Justin's jams. But again, the aesthetics of that one, I made a box, inverted a box, put a light in there, boosted up the bloom, and then put a TV in. No assets.
Yeah.
It's like three or four cubes. And then everybody goes, oh, the aesthetics. You're like, no, just put the light in. And just watching videos on how filmmakers build their scenes and put their lighting in and then taking Pinterest and having masses of Pinterest boards that show you everything, like ideas from all over the places, and then taking one of those images and saying, I'm going to recreate that image. And then you recreate that image and then build your jam into it and your gameplay into that. It can really make a powerful scene that you create.
Yeah, people underestimate lighting. You can do a lot with that. Even if you're like, art is kind of man, you're like, but if you adjust the lighting, like even just like taking your direct light and bring it down to the side and like behind you or something, it completely can change the mood of your scene.
Yeah, and somebody asked me how I got the lighting. Somebody was like, the lighting's really good in this game. How did you get it so optimized for this game jam, like over 24 hours? I remember turning around and saying, because there is no lights. Like everything's faked. Like the whole room is baked, and the light strip you see above is just a unlit white texture that's blooming.
Yeah. The secret to making optimized VR games is just not having any lights.
Yeah. And they're just baking everything in
Yep.
and just cheating like mad.
You just have a little dark blob as your shadow. It's really just like a quad, and then no lights.
Little circle down there.
Yeah.
Lighting is. Well, I always have to get an artist to come in and actually like fix the lighting once I get it okay. Like I'll get it so that it's not too terrible, and then I'll get somebody who's actually good at lighting to come in and make things look pretty. And it's weird how much of a difference just that step makes, like just getting that right and being good at it. I'm terrible at it, but I know the value. So we had there was only one question in here. I guess I'll pop it up and see if anybody's got any other ones. And it was just about whether or not it's possible to make a good game as a hobby. Eliminating the stress factor and having all the time in the world, would it help you make a game? So I think Andrew, what do you think? Can you make a good game, or is it going to be terrible? Or
the answer is no. Everybody knows that the more stressed you are, the better your game becomes. That's standard practice. That's it. No, of course you can make a good game as a hobby. In fact, I would suggest that the most important thing is enjoying the process and enjoying what you're working on. And if you're enjoying what you're working on, there's a much greater chance that's going to end up being a good experience for players as well. They're going to enjoy it. I mean, part of it is you're not getting bored of your own game, which is an important thing. And then second, if you're enjoying it, you're just going to do it well. You're going to do it better. You're going to spend more time on it. You're going to, spend the time to solve the problems that you come across. But if you don't like it, if you are stressed out, that's when, your loved ones are going to say, hey, you're really stressed out about this. Why don't you take a break? Why don't you do something else? And you're going to start thinking, I don't like this anymore. And you're never going to finish it. So yeah, I think as a hobby, sure. Gotta do it.
Yeah, my wife's the opposite. She asks me why I'm not crunching. She needs.
You look awfully relaxed right now.
Yeah,
You be working.
You need to go and crunch for a few months, and then I disappear for a few months into this room.
Yeah, my wife asks me what I'm doing every time I take a break. Like, why aren't you working right now? like, I just finished. I need a break for half an hour. Of course, then I start working in bed. I struggle to like not. I just get my laptop out. But I mean, working's fun. Like when you work on game dev stuff, at least for me, like I just get an idea and then I start building another project in bed, like while I'm trying to relax.
I've got a baby on my first baby on the way, and so I've been grinding, and then I'll like get to the point where I'm just overwhelmed. I need a break, and I'll like tell my wife I'm gonna go have a break, and then she'll literally like come in and check on me and make sure I'm not working every so often because she knows I'll just swap back and start working again.
Yeah, I imagine Dave's got like a soldering iron by his bed now.
No, I'm very much the opposite. I'm one of these people that I try not to work in bed. As soon as I enter my bedroom, the work stops because I've suffered with insomnia for years, like decades. And for me, it used to be a case of 4 hours sleep was more than enough, ready to go. And the insomnia helped with the creativity, I think, a little bit. That and the drugs. But I found that if I stopped doing that as soon as I entered the bedroom, I could sleep better. I'm a techie and everybody knows I have robot arms everywhere. I actually do have a robot arm and an iPad that lifts over my head when I'm in bed so I can sit and watch anime before I fall asleep to try and switch off a little bit. But I don't work in the bedroom. I have this office for that, and that's what I do. As soon as I leave the office, if I'm not in the workshop with the tools, then yeah, stop.
Be like, but I sleep in the office, right?
No, I did think about putting a bed in here at one point, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, literally, I work from home. I don't need a bed in my office. I think my wife would like me to have a bed in here sometimes, so the couch doesn't get used so much. But no, yeah, this is what it is.
All right, got another visitor, another guest. Welcome.
Hi everyone.
How's it going?
Yeah, well,
Quite well. Lots of work.
It's work.
Was 1 week on vacations and now we just have to get back to refactoring art assets.
Oh, okay. Which art assets are you guys working on refactoring now? And everybody who hasn't seen his art assets are linked down below. The nature manufacturer stuff. I'm sure you've all seen it before on the asset store, but there should be linked down in the description. What's getting updated?
Both RAM, so river assets, and lava.
Oh, sweet! I actually just used the lava set. So I used the lava with the TiltFive. I've got a platformer that I built. It goes up. I cannot point. So it goes up on there, and you can actually jump up. The ground below is the lava. I used that lava kit and made the lava river. I think I even sent you a picture of when I accidentally made it like 10 million miles long.
Yeah,
So,
I
used that as the base there. So you got to like jump up, and keep getting higher and higher. It's actually really cool. And it was out of all the experiences I've made for the TiltFive thing, it was probably the neatest because you really got to experience that depth and see yourself going up and then have that fear of the lava. And then it made it so you pass a certain point and the lava just starts rising. So everybody freaks out when they're like, wait a minute, is that coming up? And then they're like trying to get away. So it was, yeah, that's cool. That's getting an update then?
Yeah. By the end of the year, we will be updating first the lava, then end of the year or the first quarter of next year will be the river update.
Nice. So I'll have to pull that up and share a link to that directly in the chat in just a minute too. Cool. So did we have any other questions pop up? Have you guys seen any questions that you wanted to answer or take on?
I have a question for you, Jason.
Oh, yes. Ask away.
The TiltFive, does it recognize each board individually? Or can you set each board individually? So if I had like 4 of those boards laid out, does it know which board I'm looking at?
Good question. I don't know. I don't know if there's a way to do it. From what I can tell so far, by default, it just detects any, like if I set a board down there and a board there, I can look at either one and it works like it's the same board. I don't know if there's a way to add multiple boards, but I wouldn't be too surprised. It just depends. I'd have to look through the SDK. I could ask them and find out. Did you have an idea with using multiple boards?
Oh, tons. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to create this weird, but I kind of wanted to create a spaceship or an aircraft, like in a real world. So have like a pod around me, and then put them as the windows.
Oh,
And then
okay.
actually be able to look using the glasses at them and then actually display what's going on behind the actual world. So as if they were windows, basically.
That would be cool. It won't work with that right now, though, because they don't work in the vertical
Oh,
orientation.
they don't work in the vertical. Oh.
And that's from what I can tell, it's a software thing. I think it's just not supported yet because it's looking for the board based on the gravity being down. You can tilt it quite a bit, but once you get too tilted, it seems to not track the board right. But I think from what I can tell, that's just like a software thing because it's meant to look for it.
It's not about the angle of the projector in the headset, is it?
No, not from what I can tell, because you're still looking at it kind of on the same angle. It seems like it's the angle, like there's something checking in the headset, expecting it to be flat on the ground, like expecting it to be tabletop. So that was the impression that I got when I asked them about it too. So it looks like it's something that probably could be supported in the future. Just right now they're focused on the game part.
Well, if they're listening, reach out because I want to know if you can, because I really want to I really want you to be able to sit in a seat, have a rumble floor, and then actually have this like spaceship around you and feel like you're taking off, and then everything whispering past and all the rest of it in real life.
And have that full depth.
Yeah, rather than using a VR headset, actually having all the physical assets around you and all the rest. I mean, I could do it in VR. It's easy.
Yeah, in VR, it's pretty simple. I think it's pretty cool. Like I said, my favorite part is really looking at like the depth down, and they're building things where you can kind of like see really far down, and there's reason to see down. Like in this platformer, every time I fall down, like it's good that I can see down because I can control where I'm falling and land on a platform, not hit the lava. So there's actually like some value there. When I made a little fish game, I pulled in one of the fish art assets. It looked really, really nice, but making a game out of it was not fun or interesting at all. But it was cool, like being able to see like down in the ocean and get that cool view. It's like a really neat deep view, like it's down below the ground. It's because I put one of them down on the floor here, so it just looks like it's like down in the ground.
Yeah, I think the first mini game I would create if I was going to do that would be, if you've ever watched anime and they go to a fair, there's one of these, you catch goldfish with a little scoop, and if you do it too quickly, the scoop would rip and the goldfish would get away. So you have to do it really slowly and neatly and collect the goldfish and move them out, because you could get some really beautiful goldfish from around. And there's some fantastic goldfish on the asset store. Don't ask me how I know. But you could literally get in there and just lift them up and pop them in a bucket. That would be a great little game that kids would really enjoy using the TiltFive. So that's the first thing I would probably create on it.
Yeah. Anybody got any other ideas? Stuff I can make? I'm still looking for ideas. I've got a few things. Like I said, I want to do some stuff with those dice that I dropped. I want to have like a spaceship up there where I can roll the dice and it like randomizes the look of the spaceship, like switches out the different parts. But I need game ideas too. You got anything else? The platformer was fun. Looking for something else that'd be cool. Maybe multiplayer. Maybe not.
Maybe use the Lego assets and actually build Lego on the TiltFive and make things out of Lego. You could link in with Unity's Lego thing. Get some of that promotional content.
Make a little Lego game. I don't think Punch Out would work very well. No. It is super easy to track though. Like for the wand and controller and stuff to track it, it's just got a singleton there. You just read the position and the rotation of the object, and you're done. And then like these just read as an axis that's in there. It's got like its own input thing, and the buttons are just there's an enum for each one. It's super simple to use. So I just had to come up with something cool to make.
You only get one of those, right?
Yeah, you get one wand per headset.
I was thinking
I don't know if you can pair more.
Cooking game. Get the egg, flip the egg, get the sausage, put it in there.
I was thinking the same thing, but with like potions or something. Where can you mix a cauldron with it and see the things mix as your wand goes through it?
Yeah, you guys are more creative than I am. That sounds difficult though, dealing with fluid stuff. or potentially. It sounds like I could kill myself with a rabbit hole there, or I could do something simple and cheat.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure something else. I can't figure it. Everything's just spinning around in my head. I'm not going to.
This is a VR tabletop game called Demio.
Oh yeah,
and it's like it's tabletop, and it's like a card and dice mixture type game. And it's pretty similar to you could really make a cool thing with the tilt here, and you can use your dice there.
How do you spell it?
DEMEO.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good call. That's a very, very good game.
Let's see. This one?
Well, it looks like a very good game. I haven't actually played it myself, weirdly.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, okay.
Does it read QR codes, the TiltFive?
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
I mean, I don't know if it's possible for it. It has a camera on there, but I think the camera is like
cordoned off,
doing special stuff for the detection. I don't think it's like a normal camera view.
Do you get camera pass through? Can you get access to the images from the camera?
Not now. I think you not with the Unity SDK. I think you can with the native one, but they said it doesn't look like a normal camera view because it's doing whatever it's doing. Still trying. The other thing is like I really want it, whatever I build, to run on the phone. So like the TiltFive system all runs off the phone. So I figure I can make something that's completely mobile and do that. So I want to try to minimize using at least as little extra stuff as possible, unless it actually interacts on Android or iOS or something. What is this game though?
It's like almost like Dungeons and Dragons type style of game where you choose a class, and it's multiplayer. So you in the VR game, you're literally standing around a table with 3 or 4 other people, and you all take turns. It's like a turn-based strategy game where you roll dice and you'll play cards, and based on who your character's class is, you can perform different actions or go a certain distance or whatnot. If you're a D&D enthusiast, it's a good game for it.
So it's meant to feel like you're around a table, but it's not like, hey, actually go to your kitchen table with 4 friends.
Right, yeah. And you can like zoom in on the map and be really close if you want, and basically be inside the map.
Cool.
There was a Kickstarter for a VR tabletop thing as well, wasn't there? Just recently, it got a lot of press. I can't remember what it's called.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
This one definitely looks cool. I'm going to grab it, though. I'm going to bust out my Quest 2 again. Try that.
I'll get you back into VR.
Something. Keep coming up with more ideas, too. So, yeah, for this TiltFive, though, if you guys get any other ideas that are, like, especially stuff that really uses the depth, I think that's, like, where it really shines. On most of the other stuff, it was, it's cool and all, but it's not nearly as cool, like, as an effect as being able to see like way down or go down or up or above or something like that, like being able to actually utilize that 3D-ness, the things that come up towards you or go down below.
Yeah, Kenji mentioned Lemmings, which would be interesting. In fact, if you had it so you look down into, you remember Lemmings when you had you've got the 2D world and you're basically moving up and down. It's like a mining sim in a sense because you're moving up or mining down across and all the rest, and then you've got the parachutes. But if you did that where you had a hole, so you're looking into the hole and whatever direction you're looking is a side, so you've got a circle, it's a big basically reverse cylinder, and you've got the lemmings running around the inside like that, spiraling up and down, and then you have to actually walk around the board.
Yeah.
So you walk around to see parts of the board, and then you're pressing on them in the board.
That could be cool.
Complicated, but super cool.
Yeah. That would be cool.
Terranium. And terranium? Can't remember how you say it there.
I like it. I have to play with that. I was thinking about a platformer where you're going up a tower and around a tower. You have to like walk around to see as you go around it or something. But I think being inside and down would be cool too. It's another good one to play with. Sweet. Why is nobody making it? What? There's this question. Why is nobody making a 2D platformer World of Warcraft type game, including multiplayer? I would be really... I don't know how that would work. Dave, why haven't you made that yet?
2D MMO.
Yeah, you just need a 2D MMO. And everybody just have lots of height, so you can everybody can stack up on top.
I mean, you could do a 2D MMO. I mean, there's no problem with that.
It's just
I don't know why nobody's
get
made
rid of
it.
that first M. It's just going to be an MO.
No,
It's
if
not
it's
going to be
big
that
enough,
massive in 2D.
why not? Why can't it be massive? If you've got a
It can be
giant,
massive,
How much
if you
resolution do you
consider
have on your
instancing
screen?
massive.
but that's the thing. Even in World of Warcraft, you can't zoom out and see everybody and everything.
No, but you could theoretically
local-based.
get a lot of people into an area. On 2D, you can't really. You can't. I mean, you can get a couple people into an area on the screen in 2D, and then
If you look at something like
fall apart.
if you look at something like Oxygen Not Included, and you think of that sort of 2D layout where you've got a really big cavernous area that people are moving down and coming out, forget the World of Warcraft part, because don't copy that game, just make it a you. But if you think of something like Oxygen Not Included, and if that was a massive multiplayer, where everybody's working to build these cavernous areas that they can basically develop in, and then they have to build defense structures against other people building cavernous structures. By the way, this is trademarked by me because I'm starting to like this game.
By the way, there was some chat too about 2D games, and there's a lot of conversation about 2D games that are not 2D platformer games, which are totally different. The top-down 2D game is not that much different from a 3D game. like world and setup wise, at least it's very similar. A 2D platformer is very different because then you've got a side view and platforms.
It's not Pokemon where it's just
it's not a top-down view of the world with an orthographic camera.
Yeah.
It's more than possible. Go out, if you haven't seen it, go out and build it. Maybe people will buy it, maybe people will like it. There you go. Don't steal my idea though.
Nobody's done it yet. It's
Yeah, I'm gonna steal your idea now, Dave.
what was that about? Not worrying about other people stealing ideas there at the beginning.
Exactly, yeah.
When you're advertising your game.
Hold on.
I've already got so many, I've already got so much stuff on in production. I'm not adding something else to it.
Way too many ideas. All right. So, does anybody in chat have questions? I'll look and see. I've never seen Puzzle Pirates. Coming through.
Don't know what Puzzle Pirates is.
I don't either. Well, all right. So there were a couple other things I wanted to talk about this week that I want to make sure to mention. So the first was that tomorrow at 5 o'clock Pacific, let me see if I can find the link. They're hosting a meetup, and the meetup is for anybody who's a game developer. Can I find the link or not? And wants to attend. Well, it's really for the first 150 people because that's the cap on the number of people that can join at a time. We've got, I think, 2 or maybe 3 speakers. The third I wasn't 100% sure on yet. They're going to be coming and talking about some interesting topics starting right around 5:10ish. And then we'll do some networking, let people get together, chat and talk a little bit, do a little bit of mastermind matchmaking, and probably do a little giveaway also. So if anybody's interested in that, or if you want to come recruit for jobs, you're looking for jobs, there are a couple people who said that they were hiring and wanted to come talk to people. So make sure that you show up for that. All you got to do is click the link, add it to your calendar, and then show up here. Actually, I want to pop it up on the screen real quick. So it's right here's the link. View landing page. There we go. Instead of the edit page. Yeah, you just go right here, just add it to your calendar, and it'll be running for about 2 hours in Gather. We'll just be hanging out, chatting, just like a normal game dev meetup, just like an in-person one. Be sitting there, listen to a little talk. There'd be 2 little 20-minute talks, and then talk to a bunch of other game developers, have some fun, meet some people, and all that stuff. Oh, looks like Tim just joined the giveaway. So are any of you guys going to be able to make it to the meetup tomorrow, by the way? I don't expect anybody will, but I figure I'll ask.
I
What time?
might be able to come, but I might be really tired from driving, so we'll see.
I put it on
Yeah.
my calendar. I'll probably
All
try
right.
to join a little bit at least. Looks cool. The
Yeah.
application looks cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
me
really
used it.
cool.
Oh, it's super fun. Yeah.
Yeah. We used
Yeah, I'll
it for
probably
the
join in.
GameDev Guild conference, and everybody loved it. You can run around, you can play some games in there, you can talk to people. Mostly it's just good for having conversations because you can see where the interesting conversations are because people will start to gather. Like you see everybody starting to clump up and go, oh, what's going on over here? Find out that there's actually a conversation about something interesting going on. And then when people need to break off, they can just walk right off and go do something else. And it works great. It's very
That's
much
cool.
like an in-person thing without the awkwardness of the in-person part.
Nice.
Let's see. Sorry, looking through chat again.
Yeah, somebody asked about converting 3D assets to 2D, and I expect Andrew's got a take on it. But the thing I was going to mention is there's some really good talks by super giant games where they talk about the inside of Hades and how they done their 3D assets in Maya and then basically moved those out into the 2D that you see for Hades. Which are fantastic talks if you want to go and check those out. Andrew?
There are tools that purport to do this on the asset store. I think I used this one before. I'll link it to you, Jason, if you want to bring it up. But essentially, one option is to take pictures. Like basically make a tool that runs through the animations of your 3D model and takes pictures at certain keyframes and just make keyframed 2D. That's one option. You could do that with body parts if you want to do the whole, I don't know how do you call that animation, but stuff like that where you get each body part is animating on bones, 2D bones. Or you could just use your 3D assets in orthographic camera mode and just they're 3D, but they look flat. And then when they turn, you see them turning, which is really cool. So there's that option too, if you don't really actually need 2D assets, but you just want them to appear 2D. So there's some options there that I can think of. Or just hire a 2D artist and say, here's a 3D model. I need a 2D version of this.
Yeah.
Oh, it's this other one. So what's this? Inside Hades?
So this is basically how they did the 3D modeling and rigging of the characters. And then they take those characters and the way they shade them and clean them up and all the rest just shows a really good pipeline from coming from amazing 3D assets and producing them so they can be in this 2D game and they create the sprite sheets, etc. from that. And the woman, for instance, who talks through this is a fantastical tutor on how she develops these characters and puts them out. So yeah, it goes through the whole thing.
Nice. I just linked that in the chat too. And then somebody asked for the dice too. So there's a link to those as well. We're going to check them out. They were on sale Friday. They're not on sale anymore, it looks like. So they're slightly pricey, but yeah, they're definitely worth it, I thought, to play with and experiment at least. If you like to play with and experiment with random tech on your business card, which I do.
$120 for dice.
They were on sale.
$20 per die. That's
your wife.
They're pretty cool though. Like I said, they got their little Bluetooth and they just work. So
no, they are cool.
Super neat. Oh, let's see. Oh, by the way, if you haven't entered the giveaway yet, make sure that you do. I don't know how many people have. Let me see. What are we at now? Only 70 people have entered. We've got a JetBrains Rider license to give away. I was trying to get my words right, making sure I said that right. Yeah, JetBrains Rider license to give away. I think I've got a couple more of those left. Probably have to get a hold of something else to give away soon too. So for now, though, winner will get that. All you got to do is choose a race and class with an exclamation mark at the beginning. There were a couple other questions that popped up too. Here's a VR specific one that I don't know the answer to. It says, how would you go about detecting a specific controller position and rotation in VR? Justin, you want to tell them how to do that, like with different sets, or what do you use to do this?
So you can do that with just Unity's new input system. It treats your VR controller as it has a same as a joystick. You can move around. It has its own data of a three-dimensional value of where it is in space in relation to the actual headset and everything. But I just use Unity's XR Interaction Toolkit, which kind of sets all that up for me, so I can just drop a VR character rig. Basically, it's like a very, very basic VR character rig into the scene. It automatically has headset tracking, controller tracking, and everything attached to it. It's built in Unity.
Nice. And then you just get an object for each controller, right? And then you can do the script based on that specific game object.
Yeah. The main difference between VR and any other FPS or third person game is just how the player interacts with the game, and you have three different controllers you got to manage instead of just one joystick or a mouse and keyboard. So that's what makes it complicated.
The two hand ones and then the head one, right?
Mm-hmm. So you can't just walk up to something and press X to open the box. You got to actually be able to reach out to it and grab near it and pick it up, and that's what makes things complicated.
Let's see. So here's a question. I don't know the answer to this one either. Why is the mobile market not flooded with Mario Party clones? Is there a reason it would be? I think Mario Party is only fun with multiple people, and mobile's not really multiple people type of setup, right? Anybody got a better reason?
Nobody's made a better one.
Yeah, there are great racing games on Android, and I don't know why you'd bother.
So here's one about source control. Do you think file locking is valuable or important for a repository for art and code? What do you think about Apache's SVN as file locking repo? So what do you guys, have you guys used source control systems where you have to lock files like Perforce, where you can lock and check stuff out and prevent other people from grabbing or working on things? Dave, looks like you definitely have.
Oh yeah.
Your thoughts?
Yeah. So my first sort of coming across the locking mechanisms and everything else was working at Sony on a team of about 150 for and that was 60, 70 artists. No, more than that, actually. A lot of artists, a lot of designers. And when you've got that many people, you all can't communicate who's working on what when. It's just not possible to know everybody, whether somebody's working on that car at the moment or whether somebody's changing that texture at the moment or something like that. And if you change it also at the same time they're changing it, conflicts in art assets are a nightmare to resolve in a lot of cases and make them still look good. So it's all about conflict resolution and trying not to get those conflicts in the first place. In the same time, communicating the idea that that thing is locked for a reason. Now, back then I was doing tools programming in Perforce, funnily enough, for Sony, as well as doing all the Maya stuff and all the rest. So I basically built a lot of things around this. And one thing I would say is if you do implement a locking system for repo assets, also implement the ability to communicate the fact that that thing is locked. So what we also did is enabled people to message to say, you've currently got this locked out. Why? Because the only problem with this, it solves a big problem of people checking out the same assets and playing with them. But a problem with this is the fact if the artist forgets to unlock the asset after they're finished, and then you find yourself running around the studio, or in our case, we had multiple outsourcers and all the rest, finding that person and saying, why have you got this locked? Or people turning up at my desk and going, they shouldn't have it locked. Can you unlock it for me? Can you unlock it for me? Because nobody had privileges to do that, because otherwise they would just unlock it and take the hit for getting the conflict. So being able to turn around to certain artists and say, look, you can't have this unlocked at this point. Now it's finished. Also locking things when they're going into review. So in a big studio like that, what happens is an artist will work on a product, an asset, and then they'll check that in. That will then get shelved for an art manager or an outsource manager to then review, mark up, send back for revisions, and then you do it again. But while it's in review, you sometimes don't want to have more iterations going on that. So sometimes you will look for review so that then it can be reviewed, passed back, and then you can move on to the rest. It's all about that production line and having that production line super clean, super easy, and not having the problem of people overlocking themselves.
What about you other two artists down there?
I don't do source control well. So I have no. I mean, we used to use Collab right now. I'm trying to use Plastic. I'm just having a hell of a time getting Plastic set up. I'll figure that out. But it is helpful. You know, I have no idea what the Apache subversion and all that is, but I will say that for artists in Unity, it's helpful to be able to import something in Unity, have it set up, and then other people just get that set up rather than sending them the raw FBX and having them, import it and not do one setting the same way. And suddenly there's issues because, hey, this doesn't look right because, oh, you didn't click that button or something.
Okay, having it all prepared and ready for them. Yeah. What about the nature manufacture assets? You guys keep those all in a source control system?
We prefer to use assets. These mostly work. Each of them works on different assets, and different types of assets. So they are having their own source controls for each of them. Cloud, they have, as always, NAS, then cloud storage, and then we are gathering them together and joining them in one of the assets. But is responsible for joining them and working on them and checking them. Yeah. So as we are just 4-person team, we don't have to log them or have any problems with it. Yeah, but I earlier worked on a project I think the biggest project I worked on was about 1,000 people working on it. And then, without locking files in this kind of projects, it wouldn't work anyway. So we had, especially as we had the structure that we have project managers and project managers of project managers on top of them, because the project was created in, I think, about 20 countries. So it was quite big, quite problematic. So locking was not optional. You had to log everything and to check everything before you worked on it.
Yeah, that's huge. 1,000 people and 20 people is or 20 different places is nuts. I would see the locking too. What about with code? Personally, I'm all for locking art assets if they need to, if the artists need to, but I really, really hate it for source code, like actual code stuff, because then I need to make one tiny little change to a file and I've got to suddenly go talk to the programmer that's got it locked and hope that they're not out sick or on vacation or something today, which has definitely happened before. And I had to basically do what people did to you, Dave, and bypass them and go to the guy that had access to Perforce and get them to unlock stuff. But do you guys, or how do you feel about it with code in general? All right, how does everybody in chat feel about locking code files versus art?
My rule of thumb is, if you're going to have a conflict, how hard is it to resolve that conflict? Whether it's code or any file, a data file, for instance, might be just some pieces of text. Like, for instance, if you had narrated script or something like that you hold as a data file in your game, that's very easy to merge and fix and conflict resolve. If something's really easy to conflict resolve, there shouldn't be a reason to lock it. Our assets are a nightmare to conflict resolve. Binary files are impossible to, well, they're not impossible to resolve. They're a nightmare to resolve. In fact, we had to have a system.
You can't merge binary, Dave?
No, we had a system that you would take. So if anybody's ever come across it, and you might come across this with Unity scenes or something like that, what you can actually do is take a file. You basically take the old version, you pop it out, you put them beside each other and start copy and pasting, or having an automated system to basically take both scenes and then merge them up that way. But it's all about conflict resolution. If you're going to spend more time resolving a conflict because you don't have locking, then get it done. But you shouldn't really be locking code. I mean, there are reasons to have branches of code, And that is a more interesting way to think about it. If you're looking at code, branch off, do your changes in there, and then merge resolve in that rather than just hitting the direct file itself. But yeah, no, locking in code's kind of redundant.
Yeah, I think everybody probably agrees. Justin, I'm curious, what do you use for source control?
I use Git, and then I
Git?
also use Writer, so makes it easy.
Oh, hey, just use the Git integration right inside of Writer?
Yep.
Okay.
Super simple. Yeah, I use that for my 9 to 5 where we're just building like payment processors and stuff. I still do the 9 to 5 thing. And then for all of my projects, I am generally working in small teams and stuff, and there's a couple code developers, and so we stay out of the artist's hair, let them talk about what assets they're doing, but then the code developers, so it's just use branches and stuff for sure.
Nice. All right, we've got another surprise guest who's going to have some input on this source control talk, I think, and on the next question that I want to pop up. So let's pop him up. Hey, Jason Story, how's it going?
Hey everyone, good,
Source
good.
control. Did you have any thoughts on it? You popped up. I assume you got some ideas.
I've been working on it literally right now. It's kind of partially why I was late, doing my own stuff. Source control is great. I personally like using Git, mostly set up my own stuff with command line. I don't hate the others though. The only one I really hate is SVN personally. I'll use pretty much whatever's there, and do source control. Don't not do source control. There we go.
And locking art files, is that something that you've done, or do you find that normally you don't need to do that because the teams are small enough for communication? It seems like that seems to be kind of the difference here, is like as the teams grow bigger, there's a desire to lock. As they're smaller, there's not.
Yeah, I consider that a necessary evil. If you can get away with it, don't bother. I mean, it leads to confusion, but if you have to, and sometimes you do have to, then so be it, right? I find it depends on the kind of like if you're doing a continuous integration style project where you're like literally delivering on massive cycles, you don't have the luxury of doing sort of separations in a way which have like a constitution of the project. That to me is that's the ideal workflow if you've got a really streamlined team. But if you're a small team, truth be told, rather than like breaking each other's necks, fighting in the same project and having to deal with issues, you'd be surprised how you can kind of get away with just make stuff, turn it into Unity packages, give them all to one person, and that one person can consolidate into the project and then make a commit for it. Like I said, big difference if you've got like a full CI pipeline and you don't want to wait for all that. But like, let's be honest, how many people do that? If it's just a small project between you and your friends, designate one person as like the consolidator of the project and have a bunch of people make things that go into the project, but then go through the route of whoever that person is, and then they can deal with all the mess. And you can usually afford to do that, unless like the time you'll waste on a game jam, for example, if you crap up your source control, will eat any benefits you'll get from like racing to all work together in the same project. So it comes down to balancing that scale as best you can, you know?
Oh yeah, no, I've seen that happen at game jams where people spent the entire time trying to figure out how to fix stuff after they fucked up their Git repo and lost their stuff. Like, how do I recover this? It's just a nightmare. Yeah, we've also seen people not use any source control at game jams and lose all of their stuff too. Accidentally make a little mistake. Oh. Are you joining the VR game jam this time, Jason?
I don't know. I said I would, but then work stuff comes up, like catches you off guard. So I'll think about it. Hopefully I'll have time to do it. This is supposed to be a week off coming up this week, supposedly. But we'll see how that goes. Like I'm literally working on VR stuff at the moment, and I had a brief window to work on my website for like the first time in a year. So I'm kind of trying to eke out a tiny bit of free time.
Nice. All right.
Should do a team at some point.
Oh,
maybe not for this one, but not for this one.
Hey,
everybody's a bit held up.
Anytime I can work on a project where I don't have to be there the whole time, that's great. Like, if we can designate stuff, that works perfectly.
Game dev show, game jam team.
Ooh.
Yeah. You try it sometime. That sounds fun.
It's a lot of pressure.
Your
game has to be good.
Game.
Yeah, it better be
Code will
the
be great.
better be the
Yeah.
worst game ever.
This is where we all get found out as frauds.
Yeah.
If I have a good code, does not mean a good game. Not at all. All right, so Jason, I'm glad you're here because this is a question that popped up that I wanted to talk about real quick. Says, y'all sit for a living. What chair do each of you have and its pros and cons? And I wanted to bring this up, one, because you're here and you've got lots of chairs and chair experience, and two, because we've got a couple new chairs that are being shipped now that are on their way to test out. And I've got some thoughts on the 2 chairs that I have right now. So anybody want to dive in with what chair they actually have, if they recommend it? Anybody have one that they love, recommend, and think people should try out?
I'm going to state before Jason says that he went on the wrong team. He went on the Aeron team rather than the Embody team, and I hate him for that. No, he done it for the right reasons, but I know
It's in the other room. It's like I could go and get it. It's over there.
We've had deep conversations about this. And Uri, funnily enough, who was on a beach chair for how many years?
Yes.
The important thing is we're united
chair.
under the Herman Miller team, so we're
We're all
at least
Herman Miller people.
Yeah.
So the 2 of you both like the Herman Miller ones, the Aeron and the, what's the other one?
Embody.
Embody.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Jason's
And
on the
throw-
Aeron, and I'm on the
Yeah.
Embody.
And then throw in the lounger. I have also the lounger in the sitting room as well, also from Herman Miller, because that's awesome.
And what's
want
the
that.
difference between the 2 of those, other than cost?
I find it, when I'm talking to people about buying them, a lot of it comes down to the posture they like to work in, and also their size, how tall they are, etc. For instance, the Embody has an extending seat that actually is really nice if you're quite tall, because of the way your legs hang over and all the rest, because otherwise where your knees bend is actually way off from the seat, and when you can extend it out, your knees just bend nicely, fold over the edge. It's quite nice. But yeah, it's really down to posture. I'm a 6 foot tall guy who likes to sit up really straight when I'm working, and the Embody really works for me in that way. But I found that a lot of friends go for the Aeron because they either don't use that posture or they're shorter. For instance, I would never get my wife an Embody.
Yeah. I think to really cover this topic, I think let's go on a classic Jason rant. Before we talk about which chairs we use, the question is, why do we use the chairs we use? And I think it's worth going into why is there such a disparity between like $20 chairs and, God help me, that's about $1,000 for a fully kitted, $1,500 fully kitted Aeron, the whole shebang.
Yep.
So the thing is, why? What was the point? Well, first thing first, even before we get to the real issue, which is all the ergonomics and making sure you don't throw your back out, from a just general practical sense, there are lots of kinds of chairs and they serve different purposes. And so it's worth knowing that when you buy a chair, even if we throw every other kind of chair out and just talk about chairs you would use at a desk, there is already like 6 categories of chairs for stuff you'd sit at a desk. The ones that matter to you is probably there's CAD chairs, task chairs, and then there's executive chairs. They're the 3 rough or gamer chairs you could count as technically its own category, even though they're sort of an offshoot. So there's 4 categories of primary, at my desk, I want a chair. Why? What's the difference with each of those? Well, CAD chairs are the kinds of chairs for people who sit at a desk all day in a sort of security setting. The reason why is they have to be padded for comfort, but they can't be so comfortable that you're going to lean back and sort of relax into them, because you need to be basically alert for doing your job. They don't need to force your posture as much because you're not actively leaning forward for work. They don't need to breathe as much. They just need to be comfortable, but also keep you comfortably, rigidly sort of sitting up. So they tend to look a lot like gamer chairs, but they're more well built and they tend to have a bit more professional padding. Then gamer chairs are just chairs that traditionally look good, have some padding, and that's all I can say positively about gamer chairs.
Yeah.
Then after that, you have the executive chairs. And executive chairs are the ones where presumably would be sat in by an executive. And they're the ones which look like the good gamer chairs. They have the rough shape of a gamer chair, but they have proper padding, and they're they're designed for comfort primarily. You're not going to be sitting forward working in them. You're probably going to be leaning back in a meeting, berating an employee. That's kind of the relaxed comfort chair. And then the one that we're all familiar with, the most probably recommendation by everyone here, or to some version of it, is what's called the task chair. And the reason a task chair is kind of a unique category is they tend to be mesh backed, because if you're sitting for a long time, you want it to be breathable. They tend to have some form of opinionated posture support. So the chair itself will kind of pseudo enforce the way you sit, which is very important, because if you're working for 10 hours at a desk, it's very easy to like forget yourself and start like pretzeling into a chair in an uncomfortable way. They also tend to have a lot of customization options, because traditionally task chairs are shared in companies multiple times between different employees. If there's employee turnaround, or you've got different people sitting at a desk, or you're doing mob programming, or some other variation of people at your desk, you need to be able to dial in heights and the different kinds of lumbar support and the different armrest heights and so on. So all that's to say, there's a lot of types of chairs. If you're sitting there going to game and work at your computer, you'd want a different chair than if you're sitting there to work at your computer. Traditionally, I have a work at my computer chair, and I have a more game at my computer chair actually in the sitting room with the projector. So my recommendation, and the one that we basically just talked about, myself and Dave, would be the category of task chair. Herman Miller is basically the people who coined the phrase task chair, or they're the ones who made the one that's famous. All of those knockoff chairs in IKEA and the like, they're all versions of the Herman Miller. Every one of those nice chairs in IKEA for desks, you'll find the exact version, much more expensive, in Herman Miller. They changed the entire design language around how this works. And then if we get to Herman Miller, there's two big categories of those. There's their OGs. There's the classic one that I'm using, which is your so the Aerons. Now the Aerons are that one there, perfect mesh back. That's Aeron V1. Oh no, it's V2, because you can tell by the posture support at the back. So basically, the fancy thing about these ones is it's got this like curved seat, so it like literally cups your bottom in a way that keeps you stationary in your seat. It's got a posture support, which basically can dial very heavily forward into your back, which gives you a lot of support. But then it's also got one feature that a lot of other chairs don't, which is it actually tilts forward. You can dial it in, so you pull a thing on it, and the chair itself actually tilts down, and it effectively forces you forward into your working pose. And you can lock it that way, which if you're really trying to get work done, it completely stops you from like lounging back. It's not comfortable for a long portion of use, but if you're really trying to pay attention, it stops you falling into bad posture. And the benefit of that one is it comes in three sizes. There's A, B's, and C's. So if you're a wide-seated individual like myself, it's good to have an option for a wider chair base. It's important to get the right one too, because it's got the curvature on the base, it can actually like cut into your leg if you have the wrong sized one. So it's not a big deal, but just make sure you get the right chair. All of that's to say, then we finally get around to the newer revisions, which is what Dave's got, which is the Embody. The Embody is their fancier, newest version. So what are the trade-offs and differences? The trade-offs, in my opinion, is it doesn't have that lean forward thing that I was talking about, but it has one major benefit, which is the Aeron is really short. Like as a chair, it doesn't even have a headrest. I have to go and buy a third-party separate headrest just because it's very important to me to have a headrest. I highly recommend that Atlas headrest, by the way, the best one you can get for the Aeron. Then, if we are staying on the Embody, one of the big benefits is that pull forward thing that Dave was talking about, which basically means you can literally increase the length of the seat well, which can be really useful if you've got long legs, because you want to keep a kind of 90-degree stance in your chair. The other benefit of that one too is it's got the most advanced spine support of every chair ever. If you look at the back of it, I don't know if there's a good image. It's the chair itself is literally it's literally shaped like a spine. And what it does is if you're leaning into the chair, it will actually like hug your back and bend and turn to like support you. Now, problem with that is that's great if you're tall and big enough that your posture throws your back into the chair. Mine does not. So as a result, all of that back support is just fancy art for me. I need something that's a lot more form-fitting, like the Aeron. So all of that's to say, there's a lot in it. In general, aim for probably Herman Miller if you can get them. And if you're worried about price, they are expensive. But here's the big tech secret. They are one of the most common. The Aeron specifically is the most famous office chair in the entire world. Almost every company ever made has at some point bought some Aeron chairs. And that means there's a lot of companies that have gone out of business that have sold a lot of Aeron shares. There's literally entire websites dedicated to Aeron resellers. I think there's like refurbishedaeron.com and like there's so many of these. And
it's
so
so ridiculous.
If you're in a position, if there's a nearby wholesalers or a place that has secondhand furniture, check, and you'll probably find one for a fraction of the price. You can get them for about 200. The only downside is you'll probably end up getting a V1 and they have broken lumbar support. The lumbar support that comes with it, the original one, was ass. It would break very easily. You'd have to buy replacements. There's a replacement version called the Posture Fit. Go on a bit of a Google spree. The new versions all have that, but you can buy that for another 50 or 60. So cheapest option for, well, not cheapest, but like the most reasonable option for a good chair that'll support you for a long time is find yourself a probably B-sized Aeron, get a replacement secondhand version with buy a secondhand Posture Fit support. And if you want to go a little bit fancier, buy the Atlas headrest to add that extra bit on top. That's my recommendation.
Or spend $2,000 and get an embody.
Or in my case, spend $2,000 and get a fully loaded Aeron where you customize all the settings and get the full, aluminium bases and all that. Yeah.
And don't bother with the Logitech gaming Aeron. I think they literally put a tag on it, and I think that was the only thing that came different.
No, they made it blue on the back.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. You want it white anyway. The white spine on that thing is absolutely stunning. I mean, it is an art piece, as all Herman Miller stuff is. I used to use the Aeron when I was doing the virtual production stuff for the football teams and stuff, and I loved the Aeron. I think it's great. But when the Embody came out, as a taller person, it just fit me, as Jason was saying. It worked out much better for me. But yeah, it's a fantastic chair.
Or
it's also worth noting too, though, is just one thing is make sure, like, a lot of people go, I don't need that. You're sitting on this bloody thing for the rest of your life.
Oh.
Just keep in mind, we're not talking about a luxury purchase. We're talking about the difference between sciatica and not having sciatica. Get a good chair. Don't give yourself an excuse that it's fine, I'll just use the kitchen table or kitchen chair. Don't. If you can afford, if you're going to spend any money on upgrading your rig, first make sure your back is protected. Do that first.
One thing I would note is if you're doing, seriously, we got Justin here, if you're doing VR and you're doing a lot of standing experiences, get a sit-stand desk. The most annoying thing, and it does put your back out as well, is when you're doing a standing experience and you have to get up constantly, push the chair out of the way, smack the chair when you're doing the experience, and then literally bend over because you want to change one thing while you're doing it. It's super annoying. If you get a sit-stand desk or you're crazy and you mount your desk to the wall and have it go up and down, it's just so much easier. As soon as I start doing a standing experience, I literally, all my equipment goes up, the chair goes out the way, and I stand and build it. And I know, Justin, you work standing, don't you?
Yep, I've got Uplift, like Jason's showing right now.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yep, and it's it's been up for 3 months now. I haven't even put it back down. Like I work purely standing up all the time now. Because I was sitting. I have a Secret Lab gaming chair, and I was sitting in that, and I was starting to get like lower back issues, and like I do jujitsu, so I was like having issues doing that because I was just. And I was like, oh, it's because I'm sitting for 12, 14, 16 hours a day. And so I started just standing up. I left my desk standing up, and I've been doing this for like 3 months and have had no like back issues or anything. So
nice. Just permanently standing, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think I'm fixed here.
Yeah, that is definitely like a very important point to mention as well. Even with a good chair, I noticed I'd have back issues too from just because what it does is it compresses your spine. Like literally, like your entire body compresses on the base of your spine, and that can cause issues. So in my case, I go for about a 6 mile walk every morning, and so just make sure you do something. You need to have some offsetting on what you're doing. I try to use a standing. This is actually a standing desk I'm on, but it's I broke the motor on it quite a while ago, and it has never moved since, and it's been like a year and a half. Even then, though, to be brutally honest, I wasn't using it much. Not because I have a problem with the standing. I just find that standing was taking up a portion of my mental energy. I was aware of what I was doing. And as a result, I wasn't used to holding my arms on a keyboard in a standing pose. And suddenly everything just felt harder to do. I'm sure I could have trained myself out of it. But at the time, it was just like, I couldn't. I love the pacing. I love the fact that you can work and you can sort of step away from your desk and just sort of like meander pace and like look at stuff. But the actual act of typing while standing just felt impossible to me. So I still haven't gotten over that hurdle.
Yeah, I think that's a length of time, isn't it? I mean, my wife in her office upstairs she uses a standing desk constantly, and she's used it for the last 2-3 years, and she doesn't even have a seat in there. Like,
Oh wow.
She probably doesn't stand there and code for 8-hour stints, though, like you, right?
Well, no, I mean, she's standing up there making presentations. She's in marketing. And I'm not going to explain what she does, otherwise she might watch this and then realize I don't know what the hell she does. So, yeah, but she's standing up there making presentations and having meetings constantly with her team and all the rest of it. So she's up there doing it all the time. She's not sitting on the couch or anything like. And like Jason, I only really pop it up and use it for when I'm doing the standing experiences. And then as soon as I finish the standing experiences, it goes back down. My desk goes back down and I just work seated most of the time. But again, like Jason, I do 3-4 hours of rowing a week to mitigate the idea of back pain. Because if you don't exercise your back and you're seated most of the time as a coder, you will have problems later on in life. And trust me, we're both older. I can't remember how old Jason is, and I'm not going to date myself, but I'm older.
You're from the 1900s?
The white, yeah, I am from the 1900s. The white gives me away a little bit. And I've had back problems from being just stationary for tons of periods of time. So it is a good investment, invest in it. And yeah, also exercise like hell.
I do have one question though. Then, if you're doing the standing desk thing, what about the war between the people who use some form of mat or something versus people who are like, no, you don't do that. So, what's your preference? Do you like? Is there anything you particularly stand on with a standing desk, or are you just like free form on the floor?
I use the mat that came with my standing desk.
Yeah,
without it, my back starts to hurt pretty quick. I use that and some Nike Air shoes, which is pretty much all I wear around the house because I got tile floors.
And that's the point I was going to make. My wife bought special shoes that she wears, so that when she's upstairs standing, she uses the shoes rather than a mat because it gives her better arch support on her feet and it stretches out the feet. It does something.
That's one thing I'd have to do as well, because I don't want to go on a whole other thing, but let's just say shoes are another big topic where you talk about pronation and arch support and balance and dealing with all of the various different issues that go with that. So realistically, you need to also have good shoes. And if we're getting into standing all day and walking all day, you need to know exactly what kind of support you need, and make sure you have the right kind of socks so that you're not causing yourself to sweat, which is going to cause blister. Like it's such a complicated thing to just have good shoes and stand still. There's a lot to it.
Years ago, when it was all the rage, I built myself a treadmill desk because I wanted to, get fit while working. And so I had the treadmill. I put a desk over it. It worked, but I didn't like wearing shoes in the house. So I just was like, oh, I'm walking slowly, barefoot. And then within a week or two, every morning I'd wake up, put my feet on the floor, and they would just kill every morning for the first 30 minutes. And I just royally messed myself up. So I stopped using it. Plus, I learned I didn't actually want to work while walking.
I literally have right here, that's what is it? Tection Kinesio tape, which is designed for foot support. So you basically wrap these at certain points around your feet, so it causes additional stretch support, which has two benefits. So it solves those kinds of issues, so you're not causing weird tension. It also stops the friction burns, stuff like that, which can cause hell of a lot of pain for using. Yeah, so it's walking complicated. Everything's complicated.
Mine and Jason's friend Andy, he actually stands constantly and is on a treadmill constantly when he works all day, every day. It's kind of weird. And when you get on a phone call with him, if you don't know about it, it's really odd because you'll be chatting to him and he'll be like that. And you're like, what's going on? What's happening? And he has to remind you that he's literally walking on a treadmill while he talks to you. But he does it constantly. It's very weird. I've never quite understood that. I had an old boss way back in the day who used to have one of these posture things, and it was like a saddle, but then your feet kind of go back, your legs go backwards.
Yeah,
behind
I knew a guy
like,
used to use those.
It just
they were
like a torture device. I was like,
yep.
There's no backrest, and he swore by it. It's like, my posture's been the best ever, and I was like, that just looks fundamentally painful. I was like, if I got in that, I wouldn't be able to get out because your feet like go behind this peg at the back.
Yeah.
And the other one is the balls, the giant balls that people sit on. And then you're in a meeting with them. And again, they're like this because they're just sitting there bouncing on the ball. And it's like, okay, that's like, I had a friend, a friend who used to work for me. I consider ourselves friends. He probably doesn't. He's like, that guy's an arsehole, but I have to be nice to him because he's my boss. But he used to love having one of these big balls. But the funniest thing is every now and again you hear this thump because he wouldn't be paying attention and the ball would have rolled out from underneath him. And the amount of times he fell on his ass while he was trying to use that used to make us sweat ourselves laughing constantly. But yeah, big balls as well. I couldn't use one of them. They're weird. I don't
see
get it.
if I had to pick that one's more okay to me because I understand the value of constantly it keeps you alert and you have to be constantly alert in your chair. You have to engage your core and there's like value in that from like practice your posture and kind of get core control without the constant pressure of like in my mind because I don't know, again, maybe it's just down to I have bad feet. I have very flat feet. I'm heavily pronated. There's like the whole list of feet stuff. My feet just do not like doing anything. So we're at war 24/7. But something like that, I could probably engage with that. Okay, I think it looks silly. You're right, but yeah, I could live with that. But I still don't like anything where the chair itself starts to become an active part of your forebrain. Like if you can get this stuff to be your subconscious, that's fine. But I just find any kind of engaged chair starts to force you to like take a portion of your mental energy away from whatever task it is you're trying to do. I would sooner do the task, set at one of those time things. I've got this bad boy here for my little timer. I would set myself 30 minutes. When that runs out, then get up and go for a walk. I would separate the two. I just can't marry those two concepts of like doing the exercise and also trying to get my work done at the same time.
Oh, have you guys seen these standing stool things?
That looks horrendous. I would fall off that and smack my head. And this is a metal frame I have around here. I would be clipping myself constantly with that thing.
So before we do get in my class, if we're going to talk about game dev stuff or just office furniture, before we do, I want to talk about my chairs real quick. So the one that I'm sitting in right now is this OSIM Predator Acer one. And it's okay. It's nice because it's a massage chair. It actually like does a little massage. It'll go up and down and it's not bad when it's massaging. It's kind of relaxing, get a cool little massage and control it. When you're not getting a massage though, it's like you're falling into a hole the whole time. So it's I basically have to sit up and get a massage or not sit in it. And the biggest problem that I have with it is this fucking cable. I don't know why the cable was designed like this, but it's short. It twists around the chair constantly and it rips constantly. This is after I fixed it. And it's almost ripped like a million times. It's like constantly getting tangled in there. Overall, it was okay, but probably not my favorite chair. And the other one that I have is the Razer Isker one. And I got this because I saw a post about back pain. And the CEO has make a chair to fix back pain and stuff because he had it. And I was like, oh, cool. I'm going to try it out and grab it. And I like Razer stuff. I got it and it was okay for a little while, but it has the exact same problem as every other gaming chair where the padding on the bottom just like disappeared after like a month. And now it's like sitting on hard cardboard. So or a hard plywood. It's not very comfortable at all. I actually gave it to my son and he wants his beat up old chair, his beat up old DX Racer chair back because it was more comfortable. So that was kind of a disappointment. And then I'm waiting on one of these, which is not the Herman Miller one, but way cheaper mesh chair. The DX Racer apparently decided to make a mesh chair and to see how it compares to some of the task chairs. The Herman Miller ones I've used plenty of times before, and they're okay, but I just don't like the lack of a headrest. The one that you have, Dave, might work for me, but
one of these bad boys. As I said, you can get like I've got a really nice customizable headrest here with all the bells and whistles. You know,
that one you just brought up looks like the dodgy original back support from the Aeron version 1, though.
it has the bar, the literal lumbar bar. Yeah,
it's single bar that just breaks constantly.
Yeah, we'll see how it is. I don't know. It should be here. They accidentally sent a pink one the first time, so whenever it gets here, I'll let you know how it compares. My hope is that it's more comfortable in a non-massage mode than this, and definitely more comfortable than the other one that's gotten completely bad. But
There does tend to be two benefits to gamer chairs. Again, I personally, I've used one and I didn't really like it that much, but I know friends who have them. If I'm to give them any praise, the two things I would say is they do tend to come with some kind of good cushion or padding. Like they always have like a good either headpiece or they have a good bit for your lower back usually. And the second part is a lot of the chairs that can bend can often go like they're really sturdy. They're like I used to have one. It was a I can't remember the company, but basically you could drop the chair entirely flat. It was completely horizontal, and you could lie back in it. And like again, I'm not exactly a small guy, and I could lie perfectly flat in this chair where I'm basically hovering off the ground. So they tend to be very sturdy, and they tend to have good kind of comfort support. But like I said, if your intention is to sit in the chair and basically like collapse and recline into it, you can either get a gaming chair or get an executive chair. They both do the same function, but you'll get more out of an executive chair, in my opinion. But they're very different in terms of goals. Like someone lounging in a chair versus someone sitting forward, like trying to focus on getting work done, they're very different.
Could always get a scorpion chair.
That is another option. You just need a lot of space with it.
Those ridiculous.
Oh yeah, is that the 20 grand with the computers built into the thing? And
yeah. They got one.
I nearly built myself one of them. I was so close. To building one.
Emperor. Yeah,
you always see them do the thing where they tilt it back and they're using like this. I'm like, there is no world where like my keyboard is not going to be ridiculous. Like, yeah, sure, you can put padding and you can put stuff. There is no way that's a comfortable way to work. I refuse to believe it.
Yeah,
your hands are up here. It's not gonna. The blood
rushing from your arms. Yeah, I just they look so cool. I really wanted to build one just for the look of it. I actually did think about making this be able to just roam this around the room and pull it around and having just bars like a 3D printer. Like, the 3D printer axis, basically building that on the actual roof of this office and then being able to just pull this keyboard system around and then bend it down and all the rest. But then I told my wife about it and she said, stop being crazy. So instead I just built it against the wall, made it raise up and down on my own system. Then she still called me crazy. But yeah, scorpion chairs, why? But anyway.
Yeah. I think one of the other considerations with chairs, I mean, aside from all the health benefits and posture and all that, is the cost of not good chairs adds up over time. Like these, I've got a Herman Miller stool, so the tall one, because I like bar height chairs. I like bar height tables and chairs and all that. And so I got the stool. It's tall. It's great. I love it. It was expensive, $1,400, I think. But before, I was spending the equivalent of probably $300 a year or every year and a half on chairs that would be great for a short while. And then all of a sudden the padding would go or it'd get wobbly. Like I had the one before this one that would just get wobbly. And I realized every time I sat down within 30 minutes, my back was hurting. And it was because the chair itself was just getting loose and wobbly. And it was just a bad, cheap chair. So, in the end, I would hope this expensive chair will last me 10 years and the equivalent of $150 a year, cheaper than what I was paying before, going to Costco every, year and a half and buying a $200 chair. And it would be great for a little bit. And then I'd be like, shit, this chair sucks now. And then nobody wants it because it sucks. So you just throw it out.
Yeah, which is a good point too, that again, it may sound like a silly thing, but there's certain categories of products which just don't really appreciate, or if they do depreciate, they depreciate by a small margin. You can always, if you have a Embody or you have any Herman Miller chair, you can probably sell it on comfortably for, like, you could sell it for half what you paid for it and get that back easily. Someone will snap it up off you for that price. But if you drop it to 30%, you might have to find someone to buy it off you. But realistically, you can get 70% back on what you paid on your chair pretty comfortably if you get something good quality. Same with headphones. They're the kinds of things that fall into the category of, if you buy it high quality, they tend not to depreciate. Like, they tend to be mostly worth the same price.
And how long do they last? So Jack was asking in chat, what's your guys' experience on those?
The Embody I've had for years and years and years and had no problems, and it's never faded and nothing's wrong with it. Like, it has never had an issue all that time. Every other chair I've had has died within no time at all. The Aeron version 1, that back support, depending on how much you used it, how much you bounce in and out of the chair, but I give it 2 years before that back support starts having problems. The version 2, I've not heard any problems about it.
I've never heard them any issues with those. And even then, keep in mind the old one, if the back support went, it was like you'd buy another $50 worth of thing every couple of years. Although if you upgraded to the posture fit one, you'd get that once and then you'd be fine. So it was never even that big of a deal. It was just annoying if you bought a secondhand one and it was like, oh, no posture support on this one. I'll have to buy that separately.
I've had this 2.5 years and not a single issue.
The gaming chairs that I've used at various places, and I have plenty of those gaming chairs that fit into simulators like the one behind me and all the rest. My biggest problem with those is the leather or fake leather or whatever on them goes, and then suddenly you're getting that scratchy feeling. And if you live in a place like LA, you're not wearing jeans when you sit in your office working because it's bloody hot. And you're just going to feel that scratching against yourself constantly, or it just comes apart, or it ruins your clothes or whatever. So yeah, they don't last any time. If you're sitting at your desk 12 hours a day, it's
I've noticed that my voice chairs do that, but mine stay together. I don't know what the difference is, but theirs are like falling apart within like a month. They've got holes in them and stuff. I just assumed that they move around too much and have knives in their pockets.
The general, like I said, the general expectation of like the Herman Miller chairs were built to solve a problem, which is large Silicon Valley tech bros, big turnover of people, everyone wanting fancy back support for their job and, you know, wanting to be able to customize their chair down to the nth degree and being thrown around new offices. Literally, companies will grab the chairs and like sling them across the floor to the next office space when people are moving to different seats or huddled around the table. They're sturdy. They're meant to be. From what I hear, you're looking at about 30 years is usually the estimated lifespan of a chair like that. But that's usually like in an office environment heavily used. Like unless you plan to be messing with it a lot, you could probably even eke that out to 40 or 50. Honestly, though, if it lasts you 10, you're already getting your money's worth, in my opinion.
Are you guys going to take some Unity questions real quick?
Yes.
There's one that's a very generic one, but and it's going to be super simple to answer. Has Unity lost many users due to recent events, and will they keep losing their user base? I don't know, but I'm going to guess no, probably not. There are a couple people that are very vocally upset about things. For the most part, it probably doesn't change anybody's opinions on what to do, at least nothing that's been going on recently. And I think as people learn more, they care less and less. Have you guys seen anybody like that just actually quit using Unity because of something in the news recently? Or I don't know anybody who has because of that, anything that's been going on.
I've seen a lot of videos where people go, oh, is it time to quit Unity? And with that catchy title, and then within 5 seconds of it, like, no, I'm not quitting Unity. And it's okay, fair enough. But there was somebody just pointed out, I think it was Code Monkey.
Code Monkey's video was great on it.
It was a very good video on breaking everything down about what it was all about. And it was, I'm pretty sure that's the one that I watched as well. No, they're not going to lose a ton of people.
It's such. I honestly, I really do think it's. I'll put it this way: the company Nokia probably lost a good portion of its users when it stopped being a paper mill and started making tires and boots. Then it probably lost most of its customers when it stopped making tires and boots and started making electronics. Are they doing poorly as a result? I don't think so. I don't think many of us own any Nokia tires and boots these days, but I'm sure at one point in our lives, a lot of us have had Nokia phones, right? So the truth is, sure, Unity may lose a bunch of people, but to be brutally honest, they're losing the people they don't care about, and they're gaining the people they do care about. They're gaining the enterprise people who are going to pay money for the more expensive tooling. So a lot of people boycotting, it's kind of comical because they're like, you're not really the people that they're worried about. Like, if you tally up how much money you're giving them as a company every year, one person buying a service for their web platform is going to dwarf you in terms of anything you've ever given them in terms of what it's worth to them. Is that cynical? Yes, but that's the truth. So I don't find that they're not worried, and so I don't know why it's really worth stressing about.
I also see people dropping everything they know. I mean, I don't want to learn Unreal. I don't want to learn Godot. I have a project I'm building in Unity with assets I've got in Unity, with tooling I've made for Unity. Why am I going to abandon that just because somebody said fucking idiots or something? I mean, come on, like that's not enough to make me drop everything and cause tons of pain and heartache for myself, only to just to stick it to the man or something. But
yeah, I feel like you would have to not already be using Unity or already be looking for a way out to or a reason to quit using it to take any of the recent reasons as a reason to switch over. Like I can see people wanting to switch over to something because like I want to use Nanite and I have a project where that's going to be amazing or something. But usually it's more the technical stuff on implementing the games and being able to build it that makes those decisions. So yeah, I haven't seen a big change myself either. So,
The VR chat one is an interesting one as well. Sorry, Andrew, if you got more on this.
I don't know much about that.
To what Dave was saying, there are also a lot of people who do good work making controversy and amplifying controversy. So anytime that there's something that can be amplified, that's what they do, and they make money on it, and they make videos on it, and they make tweets on it, and they get more followers, and it gets traction and all that. So there's a lot of money to be made by amping up any small little controversy on the internet.
Yeah, if I was smart and I wanted more subscribers on my YouTube channel, then I would really start putting out these controversial headlines with the clickbaity stuff going, am I going to quit Unity? No. And yes, before anybody notes it, yes, I did put something on. I did put a video up with a thumbnail saying quitting Unity editor. And everybody gave me like, we thought you were quitting Unity. Yeah, it was a clickbaity title. I went with it. It was just about how to quit Unity in the editor in code. But yeah.
Oh, man.
So VR chat.
Yeah, what's up with VR chat? What's this?
So Justin probably has a take on this as well, but I'll start off. VR chat recently changed the way that things work in their game. And beforehand, they had lots of people being able to mod and add things to the VR chat world super easily. You could add your own avatars, you could add your own mods for text-to-speech, and what was happening is some people were modding it to rip people off. So they were going in and being able to drop people off of a room by spamming tons upon tons of particles so their game would crash. And there are other people stealing information, etc., using these mods. So what VR chat did is they added an anti-cheat engine, which is the same one used in Fortnite and a few other games, into the VR chat game. Now, the problem was a lot of people with accessibility issues used the modding ability in VR chat to do things like text-to-speech because they have physical problems being able to talk. And there were people that had other disabilities that they found the modding so brilliant because let's say you can't move, let's say you're paralyzed or something like that, and you can't go out into the world. VR is amazing in group experiences. You can go into a virtual world, chat with anyone, and just have the time of your life being in a virtual world. VR for accessibility is an amazing thing and shouldn't be underestimated in any way, shape, or form. But what happened is when they turned off all this these mods and all these accessibilities died, all these people that had found this new resource, a new way to live their life, suddenly lost that ability to keep doing that in this virtual world. So there was a massive backlash, and they went from a mostly positive review rating into a negatively reviewed rating. And it was all through putting in this anti-cheat software that stopped mods.
Wow. What's the solution been?
Justin?
Honestly, when you build a game like that, and literally the lifeblood of the game is the mods, like the people that create all these cool things and add these new features. Like it was very much like a like clay that you could make whatever you wanted in VR and in VR chat, and like that's was the appeal of this kind of software. But then when the Steam reviews are quite telling. If you go and look in like the recent, like they tanked. It was not recommended. So we'll see. What have they posted anything about? I haven't seen if they
It's a very recent development that they've actually done this. Very, very new. We're talking last couple of weeks, I think, actually. So I don't think anything's changed around. They're obviously listening to their community, and they have to do a change in some way or form to be able to enable this. What they should have done, in my opinion, is reach out to the community first before initializing this and saying, look, what are your favorite mods? What mods are you using for accessibility? And at least tried to get some of that in, or have a roadmap to show we understand that you need these features, that these features are essential to you, even being able to use VR chat. Without them, you just can't use it. And then at least had a roadmap and said, this is what we're going to do. And saying, we're doing this for this reason. People are stealing avatars. People are ruining the experience for others because of these mods. We're having to do this to prevent theft and all the rest. That's what they should have come out with ahead of time. It's the fact they just didn't tell the community, dropped it.
Yeah.
Boom. It went off like that.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. I'm going to kind of date myself a bit here. We talked about VR a little bit, but I have mentioned I've been doing VR for a long time. Specifically, I'm very familiar with when VR chat wasn't the first one of those. At the time, there was two. There was VR chat and there was Rift Max. And they ended up changing their name because obviously they didn't like Rift in the title of Rift Max. But those two companies, those two projects were basically really small. VR chat and Rift Max were just, one was Unreal and one was Unity. And they were both just little environments that you could run around in. At the time, you could literally only play as Unity Kyle in T-Pose in VR chat, and there was about 12 of us. There was Jesse Jodry, Graham Gaylor, there was Olivier JT, there was me, there's a few others. VR chat was 10 or 12 of us in a circle in a gallery kind of default Unity project. So I'm very familiar with the origins of how this project started. And even back then, within we'd go in every week, we'd have a little roundtable meeting and talk about VR. And within, I think 2 months in, people were already playing as the Hulk. Now, at the time, there wasn't modding kits. There was you would go to the asset store, you would talk to the devs, you would have people make models for you, and you would add them to the project. You would actually go through the process. And over time, they added all the various tools and stuff. And it was using photon voice. And if more than 8 people talked at once, the whole app would crash. There was lots of interesting quirks way back when. But it was very much the point, the kind of lifeblood of it. And yes, inside of 2 months, you were already seeing a larger than average percentage of anime girl characters. That was already there was something happening right there at the start. So yeah, it is interesting to see the direction it's going. To be fair though, they got a very long time before they started getting to the point they have to start dealing with corporate problems. It's very easy to vilify them for making a decision like this, but it's not like they didn't very much lean into their community and indie stuff for a very long time. And there hits a point where they are a company, that they were working in an incubator. They were getting money from angel investors. This wasn't they weren't doing it for just to be nice to the community, because that stuff is expensive. There's a lot of development and a lot of cost of resources. There just hits a point you might have to start dealing with it at a problem from a technical level. And so I don't know what situation they're in, how big of a deal it is, how much risk of revenue it is, or how much of a problem. But you got to at least respect the fact that they're probably not trying to screw their community. They built it for the exact same reasons people are playing it. I would, unlike other companies, when Oculus got bought by Facebook, I'll be willing to give those guys the benefit of the doubt. I met them. I think they're chill enough dudes. I don't know how much they're still in control or doing stuff these days, but my understanding is the intentions are probably still fine. I would imagine they're more than likely going to land on the side of the community and fix whatever the issues are. I don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah, they probably
it's
were
not like
not
it was a malicious
backlash.
thing. Yeah, it was just kind of they maybe just didn't think through some of the snap decisions, and could have been handled better. But in the end, I think I definitely have faith.
Yeah, completely agree.
Well, I want to start the giveaway in a few minutes, so I wanted to give everybody a real quick chance to enter. I switched to the scene view so everybody could see a close-up. All you got to do is put ! And put in Jason Story's name or any race and class combo. I actually hooked up the pledges earlier, Jason. I forget what the story one gives. I think it was heal on hit. I think it was 1 point of heal on hit. So if they pledge there, they'll get that. It doesn't show it visually, though. I got to add that as some sort of a visual indicator eventually. So just sign up, join in, and then we'll kick that off in probably like 3 or 4 minutes. That way we got plenty of time. The winner will get a JetBrains rider license. There we go. A couple people popping in, and I'm way too close. Let me scroll back just a little bit. There we go. And you can kind of see everybody and see how it actually looks when it's not clipped off the screen. Everybody's just lined up and running out. There was something else that I was going to bring up, and now I've totally lost it. What was it? Anybody remember what it was? Oh, I do.
What you're thinking in your head.
Yeah. Jason, did you see the dice? And do you have any cool ideas for the dice?
No, and I would probably need to see them first.
All right. Well, check them out. So these I saw on a Facebook ad on Friday. I messaged them, and they said they did have a Unity SD case. I ordered them, and they showed up the next day. But they're these. It's a 6-pack of dice. I've got my phone right here, and I'm going to scan for them. Just found them. You can see each one pops up. This is the little test app. I just built it for Android.
Oh, I see where you're going with this, right? So like it'll give you the readouts of the events when the dice have landed on numbers, right?
Yeah. So it'll tell you when they start rolling. I'm going through and adding them right now. When they start rolling, when they stop rolling, and what their value is. And then they also have. Let's see if I can add each one.
I know a guy who's making a VR D&D game thing. I'm gonna need to tell him about these. This is right up his alley as a product.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. So you can see right here on the app. I get the values of the dice as I roll them. You see the values start to change, and it's one per color. That each die is a different color. And then
nice.
I think if it works, I should be able to tap these. Normally it works. I can just tap these on here. I think I've done something to that. Maybe I'm touching the wrong spot, and they'll light up though, and then you can like flash the dice. They could also just be low on battery. I haven't charged them since we started. They're supposed to last about 2 hours, and they charge like this. Check it out. So it's kind of weird. On the 5, you can kind of see it there. It's got little wire spots there, and then this is the little charger. So you just pop it on here for 20 seconds. And it's got a little capacitor in there that it just charges up to run it for 2 hours. Flashes green when it's done. You just do that on each one of the dice. Now I'm guessing I could probably flash this yellow one if it's synced up. Let's see. Yeah, there. Now it's flashing. And now it works. The battery's not dead. Yeah. But yeah, I thought they were really cool, and I've been trying to come up with some ideas. Maybe with the TiltFive table and other stuff. Using them. So I don't know. I saw it, thought it was really cool tech, and had to get one to play with, and figured I should get your ideas too.
Well, pity didn't have them a little bit earlier. They just finished the was the GMT Game Jam, where literally it was about roll the dice, right?
Justin brought that up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have your kid have a load of chores as a list on the fridge, and your kids can come up and roll a dice, and then they get the chore, and then you know what number they rolled, so you have the analytics to say.
No, what you need to do, again, you gamify this, right? So basically, say you can roll the dice whenever you want, but there is 3 chores on it, and there's 3 prizes, and prizes could be just like some kind of sweet or something. Yeah. And so now you can it's a gamble, whatever you want. I've got it tracked, and if you roll like do laundry, you have to do laundry. If you roll it, so there you go. You leave it up to them.
Roll a 6, get $5. The other 5 are chores. Yeah. But no, Jason's kid, he'll have it in no time down, where he's like, why is so and so like rolled 5 6s in a row? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just
go in there and hack the code.
Yeah.
Properly hack.
Go in there, change it, like rewriting it.
Yeah, there'll be a commit message from Jason Weimann with 3 N's, and it's like, wait a minute, why did they change the algorithm?
Oh man. Yeah, these things are definitely cool. I want to play around with them a bit. So they do have different versions too. I don't know which ones they had. They had like a 20 and a 10, I think. I'm not sure what other ones they have, but my guess is they'll eventually probably just have them all if you want to build something with them, if they don't already.
My brother-in-law does a D&D stream. I wonder if he could use those in that. So he's actually rolling them out, and he rolls out, and you have it overlaid on screen what the dice
Yeah, it
come
shows
out.
what dice. That would be cool. That's a good implementation.
So I've got a Unity concept for you that you can do for content, Jason.
Okay.
If you take the dice and then you roll them, but what happens is the Unity game engine works as an overlay over your standard screen, and it comes up. So what you do, because in Unity, some people might know, you can actually set it up that it's actually the background's transparent and everything's overlaid on your screen. It's great for building.
Code Monkey has an
screensavers.
entire video on this that explains how to do
Does.
all of it as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was
And
one of the first YouTube videos I made was how to do that.
Yeah, I went to make one. I actually started writing it out, and then I saw Code Monkeys in yours and went, oh, I'm not going to do this as well. But yeah, you make the dice, you roll them out, and they come up overlaid on top of your screen. There you go.
Yeah.
And that could then stream for D&D. So if you're doing a stream, you can have that come up.
Yeah,
It can also solve for prizes if there's ever any like a there's a
draw
or 2 or 3, or there's like 2 or 3 prizes you don't know which one to give to who. Roll the dice, see who gets whichever one. Have everyone pick a number.
Speaking of, I'm going to start the giveaway right now. So everybody who hasn't entered, you're probably too late, but you can make it to the next one. So as soon as I get the window visually in the right spot, there we go. Got that over. I want everybody to battle up behind me. So let's find the button and start the fight. See who wins the JetBrains writer license. Andrew, there was a question earlier about how you made your dragon move. I forgot to pop it up.
Oh, that might actually be a reply to a question I asked. Yeah, I didn't see that. Hilton, I think, was asking about something about where to put a script for the dragon, and I asked what script. So let's see, C# script that you make for movement. I guess, is this a question then perhaps where is the best place to put movement scripts on characters? I would assume on the parent object. That's where I would put it, so that the parent object also moves with the character, but I suppose you don't necessarily need that.
That's how I usually set up my characters, with like a base game object and then a visual part underneath it, and then that main part's moving, or the parent part is moving. But okay, I wasn't sure what the question was about on there, but I thought maybe Yori asked the question. He said, what applications do y'all use with Unity?
By with, you mean like
in addition to Unity, I guess, for your game development?
Okay.
Or does he mean applications that talk to Unity?
Yeah, that's with the with being all uppercase. I'm thinking it's like integration type stuff.
Does the mine count whenever I write my own little thing that like interacts with Unity Hub to scrape the list of projects and do other things to automate some of the starting points of stuff? That's usually what I do.
Yeah, if we're talking about integration into Unity, I used to have a launcher that would launch Unity applications for training. So if people have a series of VR trainings on their computer, I had an application that would launch each training off of a browser command and all the rest. That worked with Unity using command line. There's actually a way you can do command line and pick up command line arguments with Unity.
Didn't you do a video on that yourself? You already did one.
I was just trying to remember.
I think you did. I'm pretty sure you already done that video. Yeah.
So I done a video. Oh yeah, arguing with Unity. Damn it, yes. I'm a bit fluffy today.
Yeah, just remember the worst pun you can think of and check if you've done a video with that title. That's probably
exactly. That's how I do it. Thanks. So I done a video on arguing with Unity. So you can send arguments to Unity and then launch Unity with various arguments and do things. So that's a way you can build an application with Unity.
Although my personal recommendation is that's fine, but it's a little bit limiting because unless you know a way to do this, you can't like send live more arguments to a running application. They are startup configurations, right? You can't just like
in Unity.
Yeah. So can you like just no? I mean, like if you ran the exe again and send the different arguments, it's not going to alter the.
Oh, if you double run, no, you can't. You can.
Yeah, exactly.
The old idea of a singleton application. Yeah, no, that's
a mutex. Yeah, you can't do the mutex stuff. Yeah, so the solution I use instead is I personally prefer using the qualified URIs. So you end up with like you register the URIs with your system. You know, basically like when you click
Yeah.
a Skype :link that will open Skype, or a Slack :link that you can register those with your operating system, and so you end up making your like my app / person name. And it does the equivalent of starting the app. Like it's how Steam works. You know, when you click one of those Steam like join friend game or whatever, you'll actually get a link, and that link will be like a call it like a deep linking URL, and it will activate your app and do stuff. So sometimes I've done that for client projects where if you want to say, like, it's a little bit of a hack, but it lets you do some cool stuff. Like say you're using Photon and you're using rooms. At the end of the day, somewhere in your project, you might have a line of code that says, list rooms in Photon. If this is the room, click button, log in, go to room. What you could do is you could have a button in the app which says click this, and it generates URL that says app name : / room name, and you could send that to somebody, and they'd be able to click the link, and it will launch your app, automatically send you the command. You could listen to it on the receiving end of your app and bypass the whole searching for the room and just directly load them into the room that's there. There's a lot of powerful stuff you can do, and that gives you a bit more control over than the command line arguments. Not that you can't use the command line arguments, but unless you're doing a headless or silent install of Unity, I would usually prefer something that lets you have more real-time interaction with the engine. Otherwise, it gets frustrating if you configure it wrong the first time or something,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and if anybody's interested, it's a really interesting topic. If you build outside of Unity, it's the mutex applications, and what they call it. Some people call it singleton application.
Although it's very frustrating when an app does it and you want it not to be. Like Eagle. Yeah. I love Eagle, but my God, I want to be able to open up 2 of my libraries at once, and every time it's like, no, we're a single app. It's like, just let me open 2 instances. God.
Unless there's a real reason that like text writers and stuff like that, text editors that open as a singleton, you're like, no, open multiples. There's no reason to just have one of these.
Well, you know why? It's because they're being cheeky. They have like an object reference that's like the project state. Like, for example, I know the reason Eagle does it is because they use a localhost API for you to interact with it, because I've written my own code to interact with their API. And you can bet your ass it'd be more complicated if they had to support 2 instances and check and then send it to the right one for depending on what you're doing. So they cheaped out on that side of it. But yeah, just let me open 2 instances. God.
Yeah, should definitely be a flag for some of that.
So we got a couple more questions I want to pop through. Speed up the fight. Oh, hold on. I want to watch Jason's story fight. Jason versus Tigers. Who's going to win? I got a little crab and a wolf. Let's move the view over here. I gotta fix these bars looking at the wrong cameras. Oh, sorry, Jason. You've been knocked out. Yeah. Knocked down and defeated. All right.
See, that's because I wasn't. That's because I didn't have a good chair. I was just no support.
No support.
Speaking of, somebody asked if the IKEA Marcus is good earlier. Is that a good chair? Are those IKEA knockoff chairs any good?
Marcus.
I don't know. Are the knockoff chairs that you've seen at IKEA decent though, or are they just terrible? What are your thoughts?
I mean, if you steal good plans, they're going you're modeled off good stuff, and they have the resources to build it well. Like, the truth of the matter is, like, a lot of the Herman Miller knockoffs are pretty good, even the cheap ones, because at the end of the day, it was about the engineering, design, and work. Once you've designed it well and someone looks at it and go, yeah, okay, we'll just do that. It's usually pretty good. It just comes down to how long it'll last based on the materials used. And truth be told, IKEA make good stuff. Like, they last quite a while. All those shelves are IKEA. The table I'm on is IKEA. Like, this stuff works. So I mean, they're fine. Yeah.
It doesn't look pretty. Don't like it.
All right, and then here is a question that I think nobody's going to know the answer to, but I will ask around and see if I can find it. And it says, will Unity release the Gagaia project assets for us to play with?
No, I looked into that. Probably not. They expressly said no. They said that in order to get to the point it was going to come out, they'd have to like clean the assets or tidy it up in a way that they're not going to do for various reasons. So it's, as far as I understand, unless I was told wrong, they're not seeing the light of day.
Oh, okay. So let's just expect no. I'll ask if I hear differently. I'll let you know. But my expectation is probably that too. So let's go on. Justin, will you be making a VR Unity course anytime? You ever thought about that?
Yeah, I am in the process right now of doing outlining and starting to do stuff. Some VR specific Unity course. Trying to get it by Black Friday. We'll see how that goes.
Oh, sweet. What platforms are you thinking about targeting there?
For like Unity, and then I'm gonna teach how to do the XR interaction toolkit, and then probably Oculus's integration system as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Because they have a really
Nice.
nice
Oculus is
like
probably the number one right now, right?
yeah, because that lets you use like your hand without the controllers and stuff. Yeah, so
Yeah,
pretty
let me know
detailed
when that says.
courses.
I can,
Yeah,
like honestly,
Yeah.
VR is one of those things where the landscape changes so often.
Yeah.
I was like perfectly up to date on 8 different occasions with different versions of each of the libraries, and then at some point I fell off the wagon, and then I ended up. It got to the point it was more efficient for me to go to the asset store, find someone who's made a recent starter project because they figured out whatever it is you need to do and get started. So I kind of feel like, given that I'm literally working on a VR project right now, I owe it to myself to catch up. So I'll be in that list. I'll definitely
That's the
pick that
reason
up.
I started making YouTube videos, is because I couldn't find any up-to-date VR tutorials, and I'm like, well, if I'm going to learn this anyway, I might as well let other people know what the answers are. So that's how that got started.
It's super helpful. It is that stuff changes constantly. Just
Yeah,
like Jason was saying. I'm way out of date myself.
yeah. It's like every 6 months I get to do a new how to get into VR video, which always does great on YouTube. So
It does look like it's streamlined though. From the few videos I have seen on it, like it used to be install these libraries, go into the settings, drop the DLL drop down menu, make sure you're on this version, make sure the 2 eye things are set right, make sure you've got all of this stuff. Now it's usually some form of like either drop down menu, initialize, or
yeah, now it's
drop
just
a prefab in or something. Yeah.
yeah, it's a couple packages, and and then you download one, and it'll go back in the background and download a couple more packages. So yeah, it's a lot better for sure.
Do you still need to do all of that really annoying, like set up the avatar code and all of that, and have your entitlement checks just to use the basics with the Oculus stuff, or is that been removed?
No, yeah. Right now that we're
It's
all
all
on like OpenXR stuff now, which is
Good,
nice.
yeah.
It's kind of
There is a small window where you literally needed to go and get a key, hook it up, set it up to use the thing, do a check for entitlement before you could even run your demo app testing for yourself just for having the hands and head. It was such a nightmare. Like,
It was
yeah,
a pain in the ass.
yeah. No, they've streamlined it a lot since then for sure.
Let's go on to another one here on using the browser for your UI. So I have used a browser in the editor before, but not for UI. And the question is this: have you ever tried using an integrated browser for your UI? Have you guys ever tried just completely doing a browser-based UI? Does that make sense to you, or is there a reason you would do that?
yeah, Coherent
in the
UI we've
Unity
used on a
game.
project. Yeah, there's a company called Coherent UI, and they're kind of a professional version of that solution. Again, this was a while ago, so I don't know if they're still top dog on this, but they basically were exactly that. You write all your code and you style sheet it up and do whatever, and then it basically makes little Chromium style windows, and you can do your entire UI as web tools, which is really powerful for sort of, if you had web designers on staff, you could just do things really quickly. You don't have to mess with UI platforms and frameworks. And it also worked really well for VR projects. So for example, Altspace VR used Coherent UI because they had so many features that were like stream a video and share it and have different stuff. And being able to use web platforms means it's so much easier to synchronize video timings and audio stuff and not have to deal with all the mess of like writing your own tools. They're powerful, but I don't have much use for them these days. I find that a lot of projects, a small bespoke solution is easier than having to rely on web technologies. So.
Yeah, I've never found it to be super handy, but there was a case where I needed to show like an actual web interface in game once, and it was pretty damn simple. But I can't picture myself replacing the UI completely with it. But then again, I've never been a giant fan of doing web dev stuff, so I guess I probably wouldn't be getting the benefits there. Let's see. I think we're out of questions too, huh? Do we have any other questions in here? Apparently people didn't have very much to ask. So, oh, there's one more that I haven't asked. How do you organize your assets for art source documents? So like PSD files, do you set up directories? Do you use source control? Do you guys do anything for this? I used to have a separate repository for art stuff. Now I have actually, technically I do. I have a folder for important art things, and I just check it into Git, and I very rarely ever look at it. But like for actual game projects, usually we'd have like an entirely separate repo. What do you guys do? Like, how do you set this all? Oh, that's it.
So I just posted a link. This is a new asset that came up. I saw it like 2 days ago. It's called asset inventory or something, but it related to this question. If you've got a lot of stuff from the asset store and you've downloaded them from Package Manager, this asset will search the contents of all of that and allow you to import individual items rather than going through the normal import this package, extract it, choose what you want to import. So I haven't used it yet, but according to this video, you can just kind of search for, say, dragon, and then it will find in all of your stuff things called dragon, and then show it to you in a visual way, and then allow you to click a button and import individual assets. So from an organizational standpoint, it's not organized, but it's searchable, and you do have to have it download to your system. Yeah. But it's an interesting thing.
It is going in my cart. That sounds cool.
I bet I know what they're doing there. I bet you that's just a list of folders they're iterating the file names, they're storing that, and then they're for each one of those they're generating the icon from because Unity already does that if you render the individual items. That's a cool solution. I think that's I can see value in that, but I guess I suppose it doesn't answer the core question, which is how do you do it for the project side of thing. I would say for me it's like, you know, when you go into a kitchen and someone's cooking and they like kick you out and say, get out of the kitchen, you know, this is my place. Well, I work with artists. And so the answer to that question is I'm not allowed to have an opinion on what we do with art in our project most of the time. It's normally like, oh, I said, hey, do we need 4 8K tree textures for this small VR project? Yes. Okay, fine. Whatever. It's not my area. But if I do have control over my own small project, I usually just try to keep assets small. I know it sounds like a silly statement, but I try not to have enough to be that issue. And then if it is, you know, I'll just put it in source control, use git LFS and use it normally. I try not to go too fancy with it. Like I said, I used to in the past, throw it up somewhere separately, use symbolic links, do all sorts of crazy stuff. But honestly, it's just not worth the stress. These days I let the Unity project get as big as it has to, and I write my code in a box in the corner, and I just drop the code in various forms. I either use MS-Build or Unity packages, or I write my own command line apps to auto pass stuff back and forth. But I just try to work faster outside of Unity, and I let the Unity project do what Unity projects do.
Sounds good. Anybody got anything else on that?
Yeah, maybe I will talk one thing. Yeah, the same thing I think is in our team with artists. Each artist uses his own pipeline. They use NASes, they use clouds, because to be truthful, source controlling photogrammetry, where the one asset can have tens of gigabytes. Yeah, so one key of photogrammetry can have tens of gigabytes of photos that you have to change. So source controlling them wouldn't be any good for us. Yeah, so I think it depends closely on type of art that you are doing.
That makes sense. The big stuff. Yeah, I've always hated when people put giant stuff in my source control and completely break it. Yeah. Let's see. There are a couple other questions here. Have you got 2 TiltFives working together? Not yet. I only have one. That was one of the questions. But as soon as I have 2, my plan was to make a multiplayer game or make a networked multiplayer game that uses 2 of them. If I can talk to somebody who's got one and wants to play a lot. There was a question for Andrew about the Humble Bundle and the Gargoyle. Are the Unreal bonus files included for free?
The ones that are, there's some on the asset store. If you go to the asset store and the individual, there will be a list of bonus files, Substance Painter source files, sometimes the animation rig and other things. One of those bonus files might be a Unreal Engine version. Eventually, those will be removed. They're not going to be updated. I've got a wonderful person who's probably watching the show right now, Oliver, who's been working diligently getting up to speed on converting things to Unreal. And, you know, basically he's putting stuff on the Unreal store and we'll be managing that store with Infinity PBR, and so therefore the new stuff will not be put on the asset store, and eventually that old stuff will be updated for the Unreal store, and at that point they'll be removed from the asset store. So the long answer is no. The short answer is yes, if it's there right now, but eventually, no. Yeah. I think for this bundle, last time, 2 years ago when I had a Humble Bundle, I was able to get Unreal Engine to provide vouchers. And I was able to get a bunch of stuff pushed through to Unreal Marketplace. And I think I certainly made some mistakes in my conversion process, so some of them need to be updated. This time, I just didn't have enough time to get that process. Unreal Marketplace folks are much slower to respond and much less approachable when it comes to asking for things like vouchers. So I just wasn't able to get that for this one. We only had 13 days and it wasn't doable.
Fair enough, but there's still a ridiculously large amount of stuff in that bundle. I'm going to show it in just a second. I want to see. It looks like David won the giveaway, so I'm going to say congrats to David. Send me an email, jason@game.courses, and I will send over your writer license. And then let's pop over that bundle again real quick.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell everybody real quick one more time what's in the bundle.
A whole lot of stuff. So it's got a bunch of high fidelity characters, low poly characters, the game dev mastery course from Jason Weimann, this guy who we all know. It's got the game modules, which is the tools I've been building and using in my own RPG, Legend of the Stones. So I think they're pretty snazzy. I think the big headliners of this are going to be the dragon and the half orc and the dungeon. Those are like, hey, I need to make an RPG. What do you need? Well, the half orcs can be half orcs. You can also use mesh morphing to make them look like humans, make them look like elves. So you could use them as 3 different races. They'd be really strong looking elves. And then the armor pack 2 is in there, and the weapons pack is in there as well. So you pretty much have everything you need to get a really robust RPG. And then you got a whole bunch of monsters going on as well. There's also the sound pack. A lot of the packs come with music as well. The dungeon's fully set up with music and audio and all this stuff. So it's kind of a ridiculous amount of stuff that you don't necessarily even see when you just look at it, because it might just look like, oh, it's a bunch of characters. A lot of the characters come with music and sound effects, and and then there's the blend shapes that come with them, and the bonus files for Substance Painter source files, the animation rig. So a whole lot there. It's only $30 minimum. You can pay more if you want, because some of you might be super rich and you want to pay more. That's fine. And you can choose where your money goes. There's some charities there for reproductive rights, and you can choose.
Look at Rob G beating up the leaderboard there too.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
It looks like that just happened. That's recent. Well, thanks, Rob.
Rob G. Thank you, Rob. Yeah. So it's an awesome opportunity to support Infinity PBR. Like I've said before, we basically are everything we make for the most part goes to getting more stuff made. So this is the type of thing that lets me hire more people to do more stuff. After the last Humble Bundle, I hired for a while a video guy who made videos on YouTube, and so a lot of the free assets we have on the asset store, and also some of the most popular videos we have on the channel, came from him, and he was basically paid to make video content. So this is the kind of thing that this enables. It's an influx of cash that allows me to do things that otherwise we wouldn't be able to do.
On that note, as somebody who has bought that bundle, I feel entitled to ask for to make sure the next models you make are somewhat robot related, and I want to hear. I want to hear other people join in on that. Force them to make less sci-fi stuff and make more robot cool stuff. Because I won't have much use for sci-fi, but I won't have much use for fantasy. But if you make a lot of sci-fi stuff, I'll have a lot of use for it. So make me more sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, sci-fi has been something that people have requested, and it's always been the type of thing where I'm like, well, love to do it if we had the time and money, but money is required to get people to spend their time, which is required to have the surplus in order to do mechs, so that we can finally have a Dave character in the Battler that is, of course, a mech wearing a VR headset and in a scorpion chair. and then that dominates. So, but yeah, I think certainly this is something that might enable that. I'm also noodling. I don't want to make promises, but I'm thinking about how I could redo my character system and make a much more robust and powerful humanoid character system that would kind of kick every other character system in the butt if I do it right. So we're thinking about that too. So, and that's going to cost a heck of a lot of money to build out, but this is the stuff that enables. So yeah, if you've ever thought about supporting Infinity PBR and you haven't yet, this is the time to do it. It's super cheap. And if you don't, then do it later when it's more expensive. I'm fine with that too. It works out either way for me in our investments. But yeah.
Yeah, I would go grab it now. It's cheap. It's
Or just
$30.
send him a check.
Or just send me a check. That that would work too.
Prepay for.
The reality is, from the Humble Bundle, we only get like 40 to 45% of the revenue. It averages down really low. And also, there's an asset store sale going on right now. You may not have realized it, but there's some Infinity PBR stuff on sale right now. There will be other Infinity PBR stuff on sale in a couple weeks. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to talk about that, but there's going to be. So the character complete pack will be 40% off in a few weeks. So yeah, and of course the bundle does have a 10% off coupon. It doesn't stack with the sale, unfortunately, but has a 10% off coupon. So you get a one-time use, month of August only, and then
Grab that. I keep forgetting about that coupon there.
Yeah, it's so if you're already going to buy something that costs a lot of money on the asset store, then you could save a bundle.
Go grab it for that. Yeah, definitely get the bundle if you haven't already. And then
can I use that? Can I use that voucher pro rata for the last $8,000 I've spent over the last few years?
Yeah.
Can I
you
get
probably already
back?
own a lot of those.
Yeah.
I tried. It was one of the challenges when I thought about what should I put in this pack. I knew I wanted the dragons in there, but they had been there 2 years ago, and so I was like, well, a lot of people are going to have a lot of this content already. So I was hoping to get stuff in there where people who have been supporting Infinity PBR for a while would look and be like, well, I have a lot, but there's a few things I don't have. Totally worth it for those few things. And so I think for a lot of people, the GameDev mastery course is just one, to spend some time inside of Jason's head. And then the tools, the game modules bundle, I think is a useful package to have on hand when you need something like that in any of your projects.
Not to mention, I mean, they do make a good combination insofar as if you are following Jason's courses, there's specifically in the courses, Jason will set up stuff real quickly. It's like, here's a character, make it work. You now have an entire suite of additional characters you could put in at the same time while working on the course, which I highly recommend you do as well, by the way. Don't just follow one-to-one. If you also have a parallel giant collection of characters and you've just followed a section of the course that showed you how to make a walking around AI navmesh character or something, go to the pile of characters you have and start adding a few more in and start to build it up yourself,
Yeah, I like to recommend that in the coursework too. Just have them get in there, set one up and then go grab, find another character, implement your own, and do that as a little challenge. I think that's actually in the second part of that one, in the hack and slash game where you build like a gauntlet style game, which is perfect opportunity to grab like the Minotaur or some of the other characters in there and start fighting them too. Totally different art style, but you can switch it around to be the dungeon and do some other really cool stuff. I think it's I'm a big fan of having lots and lots of cool art, and especially customizable, really cool art. So,
yeah.
Dave, you've got a video that just came out, right?
Yeah, it's one of those really obscure ones that 99% of people will never use ever. Probably over 99% of people will never actually use. But I made it anyway because somebody asked me how I did it from a previous video. So this is how you do a drag and drop externally to Unity and drop an asset onto Unity while it's playing and have it appear in Unity. So it's a drag and drop system for Unity.
So what did you drag out? Something for that sign there? Is that what happened?
So yeah, I created this little scene off of a couple of assets and some tweaks and some lighting. And then all I did is I took an image externally, which changes the billboard. So that the Unity engine is just the little tiny thing in the middle there. and you can drag from external that image and drop it in. And that doesn't have to be an image. You could do it for anything. You could drag and drop it onto and it has a controller that shows you how to do it. So I've had it for a while. I showed it in a previous video because I put up a couple of videos recently on the pixel display and how I did it. And I happened to show you dragging and dropping an image and then it appearing on the pixel display. And somebody asked me how I did it. And it's actually code from a little while ago that I found from somebody else who had been talking about it. And then I just show how I tweak it to then put it into my own thing. I give loads of affiliation and show you a link to the original place you can go and watch how they did it. So, yeah,
well, it's cool. It's cool as well as I've done a few things like that myself, where you kind of like, here's a quick hack if you're working on client applications. If you have some configuration you want the client to be able to do on a desktop app, you could go and like make a fancy menu and add all the settings and stuff. Or if you're in a hurry and it's for a showcase or a demo, you can give them a text file, tell them to write one line of each of the things they want in the text file, and just drag it right onto Unity, and you just parse the file. And that way, if they want to change it live, it's not going to bite you in the ass having to tweak a load of settings or add piles of stuff. So I've done that one quite a lot, because all that it boils down to, I presume, in the video, is that at some point when you copy and paste with the clipboard, all the clipboard's doing is either storing a base 64 encoded string of whatever object it is, or more likely, you're storing a URL. And if it's a URL, you basically just say, get URL, do whatever you want with URL, which could be read it from the file, it could be get the name of it, get whatever. So there's the whole concept of copying and pasting sounds very complicated, but it doesn't matter whether you're working in .NET or working in Java or working in Unity. The fact of the matter is, anywhere where you could handle a string and that string happens to resolve to a URL, you can do a drag and drop solution. It's very straightforward.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Some interrupts that just link to the Windows system, and then enable you to do it. I used to use this when we used to do displays for the NFL, and used to have the big display boards that would come up on the NFL. We built a system around that, and my team basically would go through Twitter and Facebook and pull off things and have that display on the big screens. That was running in Unity. But one of the things we also like to do is be able to just make things on the fly really quickly and then throw it up. But we didn't want to throw that through Facebook or Twitter or anything like that. We basically just had these images, and you could drag and drop them straight onto the Unity application that was running, and then it would display on the big screen in the stadium. So that's one of the ways we used to use the drag and drop functionality.
But just, again, I don't know if you haven't seen the video yet, but just one thing is advice, because it drives me insane from a usability standpoint. If you are building an app where drag and drop is like a core feature, like there's an actual drop zone, make a drop zone. Make sure it's like changes color when you move the mouse over it, and have a little thing. Yeah. And if you want to go one step forward with a little bit of extra spice, you can actually detect what the extension is by reading the URL of that you get back. And you can change the system cursor to be an X or whatever if you're not supporting that file format. It takes a bit more messing, but you end up with this nice thing where if you drag over and they've dragged an MP4 file into what's supposed to be a image or whatever, you can actively change the cursor to say, no, this won't work. Yeah. Otherwise, it can be very confusing, because the drop event will fire. They will see it change. They'll be like, why didn't my thing work? So sometimes there's a bit of finagling to get that working.
Yeah, and in the video, it shows you how it gives you just an asset path on the system, and then basically you can use your file info from the system library, and then you get the extension from that, and it shows you how to look at the extension and then choose which extension you want to use, etc. So you can do the things you're talking about.
You know what the fun one is? Like, I don't know if you've done this, but like, again, this is your area, not mine, so it feels like more of a you video. But if you're looking for a fun one, most people don't realize you can register a taskbar icon with a Unity application just like you can with any other. So you can have a whole lot of really handy thing where you can minimize your Unity app to the taskbar. You can have a whole lot of cool options and settings. You can even hook into the Vista menu, where you end up with, if you've ever seen some media players, the actual taskbar icon for it will play a little progress bar. So you can actually have the progress bar of your taskbar app for Unity load as you're doing some work. This is a bit messy. A lot of it requires interrupts and doing various stuff, but you can do it. Like there's a lot of really fun things you can do where you can directly like you can even remove the official window borders. There's so many like window-based stuff you can do, but the taskbar one's one of my personal favorites, because you can have little actual notifications. You can have a Unity app where you do stuff, minimize it, and then kind of like how Paladins does it with their own custom callout, you could have a thing in the corner that pops up and just says game is ready, or all players have joined lobby, and you could then launch the app back up when it's like minimize mode, which is a really nice like usability feature.
Yeah, play with the settings and stuff in the drop down. Yeah, I done a video on a Windows application using the balloons, as it's called in the taskbar thing, and I showed a lot of that. But you're right, I haven't done one with the Unity one. I haven't shown what I've done with it, so yeah, maybe I'll pop that up into a video at some point and get barely any views because it's the thing that really niche people want to see. And
Yeah.
everybody else that's using Unity is like, why do I need this in my game? Probably don't.
I was doing the same thing. It's like I was talking to someone in my Discord who built their app, a WPF app, and they were just trying to delete files. They have like a nice delete button, but if you've ever tried to delete in C#, you will know you can delete, but you can't delete to the recycle bin, which is a real pain in the ass. So you have to actually import Visual Basic into your C# application to call into VB to get the function to be able to delete to recycle bin. There's that, and there's another way which uses the shell command that you can delete to recycle bin via shell. But it's comical how there's no. It is like if you wanted to delete to recycle bin, it's going to take you a lot of code, importing an external library of some kind, and doing a lot of mess. You can't just delete to recycle bin. So stuff like that, yeah, it's niche. Nobody really cares, but it is a lot of work.
Justin, you want to really quickly tell everybody about this jam before we have to go?
Yeah, so if you're into VR at all, or if you're just getting started and you want to jump in a team of some other VR developers, we are hosting for the next week until I think it ends on Monday of next week. This VR Jam 2022. So it's the biggest VR Jam that's likely going to happen this year. We have almost 600 people signed up. So we're going to get a bunch of games. And you have about 8 days left to jump in and make a game. We made it so you had both weekends on either side to work on stuff if you couldn't get off work. But yeah, it's me and 4 of the other Unity VR channel tutorial makers from YouTube. So we all kind of gathered together there and used our like audiences to, have a cool community. And then, our Discords are filled with people chatting about the jam right now and, finding teams and whatnot if you want to jump in.
Nice.
The theme is one-time use too. So if you have any cool ideas for a one-time use theme, there's some obvious ones, but then, you could get some pretty fun, tricky ideas
I've got
too.
one. Any of the nonsense toys that myself or Jason Weimann purchased, they're one-time use, right?
My dice.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Make
Jason?
one little game with it, and then
I do have a lot of toys in boxes. I still haven't opened my Steam Deck. I feel bad, but I just haven't had the time yet. It's rough. And then also, if you're not already subscribed, you should definitely be subscribed to Justin's channel, which I believe is, if it's not linked in the description, it will be, and it should be shared on my channel too. So go check it out. Here's the link in chat. And then the last thing I wanted to make sure to share was, there we go. Where'd it go? Where's my window? This one right here.
You reminded me, I have to get a banner for my own YouTube stuff. Everyone's got these nice banners. I don't have any banners.
Yeah. Gotta hop on to Fiverr. I noticed there were a couple Nature Manufacturer assets on sale right now too. So got the link for that down here in chat. So drop that down there. You want to talk briefly about the ones that are on sale?
I can. There are, I think, the most important are the 4 ones that are on sale. The one is RAM, it's tools with assets for creating rivers, roads, and similar assets. It's similar to Lava asset that we have also. It uses the same API. And the 2 new other ones, Mountain and Forest, are the assets that were nominated, and one won Unity Awards 2 years ago as one of the best artistic content assets. So if you are doing nature assets for even for VR, you can hook them up and use them.
Yeah, they're very beautiful assets. And I've seen that river asset in so many projects. It's just funny. It's weird talking to you after I've seen it in like, I don't know, dozens of different projects that I've opened up. Everybody just uses it by default to make nice, pretty rivers. So it's lots of cool stuff. They're linked down below as well. All right, let's hide that window. And then, oh no, wait, or shouldn't there be? Okay, I know we got everybody. I thought I lost the face for a second. So anybody got any final words before we say goodbye to everybody?
I guess I should say I technically have a website now. It's very, very basic. I just put it up for the sake of having it. It's just jason.guide. There you go. That's my easiest URL for it. It's also carefulcoders.com and a few others that route to the same thing, but jason.guide seems to be the easiest to pass around. It'll just link to my channel, a few things I've got, and I'm currently working on one other thing, which is a little package at the moment. So if you scroll down a bit there, Jason, there's one of them is there, say Unity library for Unity, or Unity library for Unity, that link there.
Yes.
Yeah. This is a little project I'm currently working on, which is a package you can import into Unity. I'm going to be putting my utility classes and stuff in there, and I have it set up with there's the whole set of stuff for managing network packages and stuff like that I've kind of been playing with recently. So this is just my test of documentation and package management and doing a couple of fun things. So feel free to link and play with that stuff, and it'll hopefully get better over the next week that I have off if nothing else gets in my way. So like game jams, you know.
And sign up on the coffee page to get into the Discord. Don't forget that part. All right. Anything else, anybody? All right. Well, if not, then we'll just say please hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, share the stream, check out all the links below, and we'll see you again next Sunday. All right. Bye.